I'm gonna do a swapcast today. Swapcast. I'm gonna do a swapcast today. All do long day. Balljangers and hanger bang.
Yes, the ball bangers and hangers are here.
Ah,
Them damn Perjangers boys at it again.
how's it going?
It's going great, man. It's going great. Just coming off another strong cross podcast with Carl Park at the Delco After Dark, and podcasting's big right now, man.
Is that the guy's name and the name of his podcast?
Well, the guy's name is Carl Park. His name of his podcast is Delco After Dark, and it was after dark. I legit went to his house at like 10:30, and we talked for a good while. It was awesome.
His name's Park, and the show's titled something that rhymes with Park?
Delco After Dark. Yeah, Dad.
Oh,
the Dad podcast, DAD. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm saying, like, if you're like
Park, Dark.
It's like, hey, what did you say his first name was?
Carl.
Hey, I'm Carl Park, and this is Delco After Dark. Like, it's just
works.
It's very it flows real good.
Yeah, it's almost poetic. Yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
It's the artist in you pulling that out. I didn't even see it, and you're like, "Here's a thread. Just pull that out here." Expertly done. Thread.
Well, I love like an enunciation. I love like a why I picked the name Cory Kastle, because it
sticks out.
It just kind of goes like, oh, there's two. It's a CK. It's got that cool, like, they both have the same sounding front letters. I loved it.
Whatever works, man. Whatever.
That's what an enunciation is of some sort, right? Like,
I mean, ever since Louis
had credit, forget it.
It's the 90s advertising age. It gets in your head, and you're like, no, that sounds right. That sounds right. Because it was visual and the radio, because radio is still big. You didn't have like screens where you could just pop up an app and listen to, a book or a podcast in your car. You couldn't pop up YouTube on your TV. We're in this new kind of age to where we thought the internet was amazing, and now it's kind of cranking up to a Spinal Tap 11.
Well, we were just talking. My co-host on my other podcast, the Sunday Stew Pot, he's also a wrestler. He was like maybe a generation before me. He's since retired. He's 50. He's kind of out of the game now, but you talk about like when he started and talking about when I started, even like you couldn't watch matches on YouTube. You couldn't look up, like you couldn't listen to experts talking about the sport unless you like seek that stuff out. Yeah. And it was still kind of like not really too much of it out there. Like, as far as like what we would consider like shoot interviews, like they would happen, but like it was hard to get a hold of them. And I got like, I stumbled upon like a whole, remember blank CD cases?
Oh God. Yeah.
I had a whole blank CD case full of wrestling shoot interviews.
You'd step out of the Best Buy with a stack like this.
Oh, just no, I never got one that big.
Oh, I got the big one, man. I had mixtapes to make off LimeWire, baby. I had to dip the family computer in that pool of STD. We had to get in there. It was unsafe internet.
LimeWire, man. That was the most 2006 reference I've heard all day.
Oh yeah, man. I mean, go back. I mean, right when Napster. When I saw it in the news, I was like, let's download this, get all that we can before they shut this down. Oh, man. The pirating phase of the internet was awesome. That was awesome.
I want people to have that passion for wanting to hear my podcast. Go, let's get all this before it's gone. Or like, let's get all this before everybody else gets on it. And then it changes and it becomes then it becomes popular for everybody to like it. I want people to be like, my
haters.
fans that they're like the punk fans who are
You
like,
want the nerds.
I like the show back when it was.
You want the true nerds because
Yes,
nerd. You can be a nerd or a geek about anything.
Be a nerd about me. Be a nerd about me.
That goes back into your question of what is a Perjanger. It's not a word.
It's a nerd about me. That's what it is.
Chris made it a word, and then through podcasting, we gave it a definition. And that's a person or group who love or infatuated with nerd and geek culture. Like I said, the best part about that, you can be a nerd or geek about anything.
So man, what is such a nerd and geek about so many things? It's
Perjanger's 42. You know, I'm a car nerd. I'm a comic and anime nerd, and you know, and just overall mythology nerd and a nerd for learning, you know, and obviously the technological side. YouTube University has gotten me this far, baby. You know, nobody taught us how to do this. We had to find out how to do this.
Can I admit to you something publicly that I don't think I've ever admitted publicly before?
Oh, please. I love breaking news.
I've tried to like anime. Okay. I can't. I don't know why. It gives me a headache. I don't like it.
Let me ask you this. Have you tried to watch Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood?
Yes, I have tried to watch that show on Netflix. And
I got nothing then. I got nothing because I got my brother like that one. My brother's the strongest anime fan. I showed him Steins Gate and he said it was schizophrenia.
I like some adult animation, man. Like I loved Invincible. If you watch that show, Invincible, I loved that show.
Rick and Morty.
But like, what's that? I love Rick and Morty. Rick and Morty. I'm obsessed with Rick and Morty. Like, fantastic. I will any episode of my podcast. If you turn it on, you're gonna catch a Rick and Morty reference during any of those conversations. It's gonna come up. I say, come for the Dumb and Dumber, stay for the Rick and Morty.
I want to say that I'm not caught up, but I feel like Rick and Morty just takes forever to put out episodes, and then there was that whole kind of like debacle with the one guy. I don't know. Yeah. Just put out episodes. I'll watch it around there.
Justin Roiland.
Yeah. That's
Justin Roiland. Kind of a as the British would call him, a sex pest. He
apparently you can't beat women, and you can't be, you can't be a pervert these days.
And also you can't do those things and also like be a public figure and then go on Epstein's Island and think that like no one's ever going to find out about it. Like,
I mean, God bless.
I still like Rick and Morty. I know he created it, but I can separate the art from the artist on all that.
Yeah, I mean that was a dirty debacle. I mean, I'll quote Rogan, but Alex Jones was fucking talking about that for years, and nobody thought he was serious. And they're like, "Holy crap, he was right." What the hell else was he right? They're making frogs gay. They were. The fucking frogs are gay. They were making it. It was a chemical. They didn't know they were doing it, but they were. They were making them gay. What are you gonna do? I mean, hey, a broken clock is right twice a day. Okay.
Oh man, I thought you were gonna say a broken record. A broken record is skipping. It is skipping up a storm.
There's a lot of skipping around. But I've been a fan of passionate people who have they've had their thing, I mean, especially meeting Chris. I knew he wasn't the normal lemming that you meet. He was a person with passion. I feel like a person with passion behind them, through enough talking to them, you can kind of
such a good dad too, man. Have you ever seen him with his kids?
Dude, I love his kids. Connor is my one punch buddy. A matter of fact, you asked me if the one, and this is another part, a good part about the Roadcaster, is that I have so many memories saved on this, but I always end off my podcast with my main man Connor saying and a little bit of Chris laughing at the end.
What did he say?
One punch.
One punch.
anime, and he's my One Punch buddy. We both like One Punch Man. I think it was 2 years ago. He got me like a fleece blanket. Connor got me a fleece blanket of One Punch Man. I still use it all the time. Like Chris and his kids, like I used to be at the giant deli counter, and I was working with Chris, and he would be off, and he'd come up to the deli counter with his kids, and they'd all run up to me, Matt, oi! And now they're driving, they're going to college. I'm like, what is going on? You were this big.
This whole aging thing. Hey, stop this crazy thing called life.
I can't wait for the day where I'm still using the Connor of
Drive on Glug.
And he's like, that's not my voice anymore. I actually have a deeper voice.
Yeah. And you turn around and that'll be tomorrow.
Yeah. But it's not me. It's Chris. He's too busy. I've been asking him for new clips. He hasn't given them to me.
The thing is, it's cuter to keep it like that. To get one as he ages, and it's like one for it. Sure, you can do it, but keep using the baby one.
Yeah, he was about like 2 or so at that one, and we just captured all these clips. Like,
play on Perjangers.
Didn't even get the name right, but it's adorable, and you love it, you believe it.
Did you watch the new Daniel Tosh podcast?
I haven't.
Daniel Tosh has a new podcast. It's called Tosh. It's called the Tosh Show.
Okay.
And at the end of it, he's like, "Oh when my son was a baby, I used to record him making up bedtime stories, and his voice was so cute. I just wanted to like save that moment and have it forever." And he's like, and we'll end every episode with one of the stories from when his son was like a baby, telling him these bedtime stories, and then they animate the story. Like,
oh, that's awesome. That's also expensive.
One planet was full of sharks, and one planet was full of lions.
I love it when they do the animation. My buddy Joe Palladino, he had an idea for an animation, and it is called, we did it 2 episodes. It was indie, and we paid for it. So that was 2 episodes, about 3 minutes of animation. It was expensive, but it's called Tales of the Morgue: Unfortunate Deaths in Unfortunate Ways. I did episode 2, wrote and directed it. It's called Until Death, and being able to write something like that, and then we got Stefan Johnson for voiceover, and he has a nice deep voice, and he sold it. Being able to like type something out when you're just, fucking partying on a Saturday night, let me get this done, type this out real quick, and then to hear this man write, like, I wrote this? I don't remember writing that.
I love when sometimes people like animate clips from podcasts. Yes. I love that. Dude, it's my dream to have someone be that big of a nerd for what I do to like actually animate episodes of my podcast. Like, I would love that. I
got a back catalog. You can, for all you fans watching, right. You can start working.
I got plenty of material you could go off of.
Take a minute and animate it, send it to me. I will plaster that crap on social media. Come on, bro.
I know you're not like a huge wrestling fan, so you might not know who Lanny Poffo is.
Not familiar.
He's the brother of the Macho Man Randy Savage.
Oh, okay.
So we had him on our podcast once, and he was saying, like, we were asking him questions, and he's like, I don't have any heat. I don't want to talk about any of that. And anything we brought up, he'd be like, nope, not what, not. And he was just being kind of a jerk to us. Like, yeah.
Standoffish.
Like, I had met him in person, and he had been really nice to me. And in text messages, he's always really nice to me. But on the podcast, I guess he couldn't tell that I was on that show. But he was like kind of just being real dismissive on everything. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, he goes, I don't know if you guys can hear that, but there's an ambulance and I got to go. And then he hung up. And then we spent 45 minutes laughing about how weird he was being. And then I called him. The ambulance, hear those sirens go by? I got to go. I'm Vigilante Poffo. And that was what we named the episode. And I was like, I think Rick made a T-shirt and stuff, like, so it looks like what the animation would be if that was Vigilante Papa.
Yeah.
R.I.P. That guy's since passed.
I always appreciate title. I have always, like the history of Perjangers, we have always tried to have an original title. And if you scroll through the YouTube, you will not find one repeat. Like 398 Lugnuts podcast, Mr. Potato Head car, just show me your tailgate.
Mm-hmm. That's
it's two pieces I plastered together. That's a form that I do. I also just find something funny, like you were saying. It's having fun with the title. And
I do that too.
Where did this come from? Let me find it. How did we get to extra dimensional fluff?
So people see the title and they go, "Oh man, I want to listen for that part. Let me listen to the whole episode just till I get to that part."
The one title I am still so very proud of, because it still gets random clicks, because it's always just like one that'll pop up on the YouTube analytics, and it's okay to senpai, no to hentai. And we were talking about anime.
A lot of people wanting to click on that.
How did they get here?
You're right.
It's an amazing episode that usually always leads to tentacles, because people that don't watch anime like to tie it to hentai. So I was like, I have my title. And then I just sat and enjoyed the show, made sure everything else was good, and I put it out there, man. Sometimes a title, I'll just put, no, I have it. I have it. This one will be appreciated in the long run. Even though it probably won't be. It'll be lost to time.
It's clickbaitable. It's like debatable clickbaitable.
Yeah. Do I click this? I don't know if I want to. And one of the best things I love to do, I love to like click on the analytics and then see the suggested videos. Who clicked on the little button to your video? Like, what were they watching? And I didn't know this was a thing you could look at, but
you can check that in the analytics. I didn't know that.
Oh, dude, I've gone down a rabbit hole.
I
pull up this one.
I don't think I get enough clicks on my YouTube videos.
Dude, you'd be surprised. I tell you, just go into just click on the video analytic, and it's in, I believe, Reached. Yeah, it's in Reached.
I'm for sure not gonna start doing that now, because I'm so distractible. It's ridiculous how distractible.
My Christmas cast, it goes and it was like 18% of the people who clicked on it, because most people search for it, but this is only 18% of that. The Zodiac cracking the code of a serial killer. Ooh. So you just get done watching that video and you're like, hey, Christmas cast with Brandon Spicer. Let's see what that one's about. Time Splitters, Future Perfect Online Night. Okay, game. All right, that makes sense. Oxygen Not Included. Reddit Rabbit Holes Part 3. You got to Part 3 and you're like, I need to watch something else. Dude, I gotta watch anything else right now.
That made me think of that Progressive commercial with Flo, and she's like going to her sister's house, and she's like, that's my purified oxygen. She's like, I can't live without oxygen.
I'm telling you, if it's just I just found it so entertaining. Like, what were you watching before you clicked on this video? And sometimes it's disturbing. They were watching stuff about serial killers. Okay, that's actually kind of normal these days.
Well, yeah, it is. It's absolutely the biggest genre of podcasting is like true crime and as South Park would call it, murder porn.
You know what I'm really interested in doing? And I had this guy on, Jim Cantonelli, and he is creator of X Night, which is a superhero comic and film, indie film. And one thing he said that he's going to do to expand out is he's doing an audio drama. And I was like, what's the difference besides like some sound effects, some other people to do the voices? It's pretty easy. You write it and
the radio play. Yeah.
You know, it's pretty much like the next step for any podcast that has
serials.
Well, especially with, I figure, like with wrestling and what you do, that would be great. That'd almost be an evolution to it, to where you could take that story that you want to tell and you can evolve it further. No
Evolving's not my thing. No.
No pun intended, but
Evolving's not my thing. I'm not into it.
But that's the thing. It's like finding a new avenue, and that is not new. It's as old as radio. But bringing something back like that, you're like, oh, that's great, because even Marvel and DC are doing
Annie
that.
Oakley.
Yep. Like being able to just tell a story like that and have fun.
Hello. Is it more stagey now?
A little bit.
A little more.
Because it looks like your cartoon is judging you.
I
don't know. This guy, I don't know.
And, you know, this is I just pointed this out, I think, with Johnny or maybe it was with Ben, with one of my last guests. I was talking about how this isn't a thing I'm ever known for doing.
The wrestler, the superhero pose.
It's pretty sassy of me to be like, or like a little Jagger like moves.
I feel a little sass now that you say that. I feel a little sass from that. Yeah, there's a little
Cory Kastle back there.
There's a little dude coming from Cory Kastle there. Okay, there's a little bit. Who's your?
He's got a little sugar in his tank.
And I don't want to make you pick favorites, but who's a guest that you had on that you were like, holy crap, I never even thought I would have that guy.
I feel like I can't really be like that, or else like it sort of like sometimes it feels cool to be talking to somebody whose voice you've heard a bunch, or somebody who's like face you've looked at a bunch, but none of it's like, for me, none of it's like I can't believe it, but it's sometimes it's just kind of cool. Like it was cool to have Mike Kaplan on. I've been a fan of Mike Kaplan's comedy for a while. Just having him on and hearing his voice was neat.
Like, and Steve Morrison, you mentioned him. I would, that's one of the things. Like I had Mark McKenna on my podcast,
right.
Marvel Inker, since I was in diapers. He's been shaping the nerdy, realm my entire life. Subtle. Right. And that was one of those times I randomly met him at the Ocean City Con because he was talking to Frank, and we mentioned the podcast. He wanted to be on. He wants to be on again. Can't wait to have him on. But that's my go-to. That's how I started 2024 with my 6th year with Mark McKenna. That's where I was like, okay, I got to make sure my whole game is stepped up. And, that was like a wake-up call. Like, hey, man, you may get really cool people on. It's not just going to be your friends. Like I didn't expect to be the interviewer. I was just a silly podcast guy just trying to have fun. And then I realized I could do some good. I could talk to people and let them know, hey, this guy's doing something amazing over here. I talked to Angetta Anthony. He's a multi-award-winning indie film director and writer. I got him on through Josh Shockley, who I met through the con circuit and all that. So just through cons and wrestling, and especially, I've met so many amazing wrestlers, and I want to start having more on, my show, Tales of the Hunted, because I want my fans to hunt you. I want everyone to hunt you, because my past guests are pushing this podcast because nobody talks about indie comics.
Hunt.
And I played into that too. I had Delco Spidey on. And I did like a little like Microsoft, picture manipulation. Popped the crosshair over his head, popped it out there on social media. The next hunt is Delco Spidey, and people loved it. It's like that kind of like, oh shit. Like,
did you? Right. Since we're talking about nerd stuff, and this is like real obscure, super nerd, like internet cartoon from like early 2000s, the Strong Bad, Homestar Runner. Did you know Homestar Runner?
No, I am unfamiliar.
Oh my God.
It pops right up on a Google search, though. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. My best friend was into that, and he had like CDs of it, and he'd play it, and we'd laugh our asses off. And like he would show me cartoons on the internet back then.
Yeah.
I mean, what does it say what year that is?
96.
Oh shit.
Newgrounds. Yeah. Oh shit. That is wow.
That's I thought it was 2000s. It might have been 2000s when I discovered it, when he was showing it to me.
Homestar Runner is an American comedy animated web series and website created by Mike and Matt Chapman, known collectively as the Brothers Chaps. Like that. The series centers on the adventures of a large and diverse cast of characters headed by the titular character, Homestar Runner.
And he would they gave him this voice, and this is always gets stuck in my head. They did a thing where like it was the girlfriend's answering machine, and somebody prank called him, and he called back his girlfriend's answering machine. He's like, hey, it's like, I don't know where you get off saying that but he was like, what, from now on it's not going to be the Homestar station anymore. You can take the 9:30 Alone train to Alone Town, making frequent stops at ex-girlfriend Junction, ex-girlfriend Junction, and East. Waking up with you. And I stumbled through that, but
and
you
got there in the end. You got there in the end.
I don't get it. I don't do a great impression, but it gets stuck in my head, and I'll wind up continuing to talk like Homestar One every once in a while.
Some things can get stuck in your head like that. Like my friend was showing me, it was a clip where they took anime out of context a little, because they had like music and different things that set up, and it was Coldplay. It was this guy, and it was this set in the anime where this guy just like closes his eyes and he throws his hands up, and the other person starts freaking out, and they played that Coldplay, and it was dun, 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 and if you close your eyes, that pops in my head to where I can't shut it off, and I instantly will just start giggling to myself. For no reason. It was just a small section of that video, but for some reason I laughed way too hard on that throughout the years, but it still gave me joy.
Yes. Shoot. I randomly quote so much stuff that no one has absolutely no idea what I'm talking about. It's the only person who kind of ever really gets my references are my best friend Rick, and like that's only because we've known each other for 30 years or something.
Well, a long friendship will have that, especially like infamously. Sometimes, like with me, I forget about the years and stuff, and like which one of my friends has met who and who's met who, and I have my own references and stuff.
I meet so many people, and I consume so many long, cool conversations with people that sometimes like I can't remember which one's which, and I mean, it doesn't make me any less excited to know them, or like to be able to to unravel that.
Always remember faces, because I do that same thing, and I've worked in customer service at a car dealership. I've seen thousands and thousands of people.
I'm a server, dude. My job is to talk to people and kind of.
The hardest question is when people say, "You look familiar. Where do I know you from?"
You tell me, bro.
I don't know. Am I supposed to pick the memory out of your head? Like, I've been around. I've been places. I don't know. And then I was at a store recently, and the woman was like, "You know what? My roommate watches your podcast." I was like, "Oh shit, he's the guy. He's the viewer. Awesome.
He's the guy. Hey, guy. We've been looking for you.
Yeah, tell him I said thanks."
It's funny, man. I've told the story a couple times on here, but my buddy has like a pretty popular podcast, and like he was playing a comedy club in Philly, and I went and we hung out with him after he was done. Like we went to the show and hung out after, and
that's cool.
People kept coming up to him and they'd say, "Oh my God, I listen every day. Oh, I'm such a fan." And he'd go, "Thanks," sign their thing, and they go. But I'm like, for me, if someone says that to me, I'll be like, "Tell me everything. Tell me all your favorite parts. Tell me."
What was your favorite episode? Did you like this title? Oh, I know. It was awesome, wasn't it? I would so fall into that.
What is your favorite part? I want to know it all. I want to know how you feel and why, what else you like, and what makes me fit into the thread of the things you like. Like I would be too busy trying to learn about these people. But I guess when you get to a certain level of,
you got to figure how many people does he meet? He meets a lot more than even me and you probably combined.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So he was just like, "Okay, thanks." Like,
it's awesome, bro. Thanks.
Cool. Thanks for coming out.
Oh, you're going to give me admiration too. Oh, that's very nice. Thank you. That's why I do it. Next. Yeah, no.
I'll always accept compliments. I mean,
oh yeah, that's great.
Go ahead and throw them at me.
Yeah,
go ahead and throw them at me. I was on somebody's podcast a while ago, and they were giving me all these compliments, and then they hit it with, "Yeah, it's almost like I hate you," and I'd be like, "Okay, well,
that's
this I have confidence because if I were you, I'd hate me too. I get it.
Yeah,
like, but like he wasn't meaning like actually hates me, but it's just a matter of like all these great things about you. I'm jealous, and that's what I'm.
Yeah, the jealousy. Yeah,
and I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll accept that. I'll accept it. I mean,
in a way, I'm so jealous of you. It is a compliment because that person's. It's the only way they can express, you know, that kind of admiration. Maybe I don't know. It's they're just bitter people.
I think I've been saying this for a while, and I might have said it on a few episodes recently. It's like I've always kind of wanted to live the type of life where if I wasn't me, I'd wish I was.
That's a good way to go about it.
So like to hear people are kind of jealous and wishing that they were me until they hate me for it.
You're doing it right.
Kind of means I'm on track with what I've always wanted to be.
Par for course. Nobody hates me, so you know. There you go.
I'll give you some.
I'm doing horrible. I'm the bearing, man. You're going great. You're going great. Everyone loves.
This. Check this. That's the ego stats. Attributes up.
You know what I mean? But ultimately, I try not to look at the comments. I have to because you know it's part of running a company, but I try not to put much stock into it because everybody, you know, they are, you know, it's America. You can have your opinion, and I'll let you say it, but you know, I mean, I try not to let that affect me, and that's the hard part, especially when you're doing really good because you're like, I'm the fucking shit.
This is why I say like the fact that the stakes are so low. Because I don't have a built-in audience as it is, like as far as like widespread.
Yeah.
So like I'm not getting that stuff. Like people are only saying that to me, and they're not saying it in a hurtful way. Like nobody's coming for me.
Yeah.
And then anybody who has a problem with me is the type of person who has a problem with everybody and anybody. And I'm not taking that personally. Nor do I have to do it. You know what I mean? Like no one's leaving me any dirty comments or anything. No one's saying anything hateful or gross at me. And I love that. And like my reach to grow some and have that stuff like kind of weed its way out.
Yeah.
But
at the same
eventually going to be there, but I'm not going to, you know, as it gets bigger, I'm not going to read all the comments. I mean, I read all the comments now because the audience is little.
Well, yeah, you could do that with a little audience. It's like communism. With a couple people, it works. Once you get to a bigger group, it starts to fall apart. Okay. But with I didn't actually feel like I was a real podcast until I got a dislike on YouTube. I was like, all right, people, we're fucking doing it. We got a dislike. Sound the bell.
You know,
I mean, I'm doing something right if I'm pissing somebody off. Because I go for the joke. I'm a stand-up comedy fan like you. I mean, like 90s stand-up Comedy Central was everything.
Yeah, I mean, I got a few thumbs down on one of my jokes I did on stage. Like I did a clip of my stand-up, and I got a few thumbs down on that, and I was like, all right, maybe I'm doing something. Maybe I'm somebody. Hey, look at me. I got a thumbs down.
Yeah.
Someone had a choice to like me or not, and they chose to not.
I'm just so scared to do that. Stand up. I feel like I'm afraid I'll get bit by that bug too.
I mean,
it's a very expensive bug too, as Big Brother's sounding in my ear. It is an expensive ass bug. So, I mean, I think I'm good with podcasting. I'll be the funny guy on a podcast, but I respect the shit out of it.
I think, like, I'm over driving long distances to mics and stuff.
Yeah.
Unless it's like paid gigs or like gigs specifically where people are coming to see what I'm putting on.
Yeah.
Like, I'm all for
you let me know. I will go to your fucking gig.
I would love to go to my gig too.
I will go. You got a fan right here. If you can play to the one guy, I'm the one guy.
Hey, you're the are you the thumbs down one? Are you the
I don't want to
thumbs
say it until I see your set. It was a very expensive seat.
I have a lot of things that are like dad jokes and puns and word play. I do a lot of
some of the best jokes are those. Okay.
And you know, sometimes
I'm right in there with you, man. They're the best jokes because everyone knows them.
And you have to be smart and you have to be quick for that shit. And and people go, oh, that's lazy joke writing. I'm like, no, that's lazy listening.
Yeah.
If you can't laugh at that, then you're the dingbat, not me.
Because I've made some, well-crafted, corny or dad jokes that have onion layers to them, where you can look at it from multiple layers. We love onions on the Perjangers and Wallhangers Media Network. I love when you can be able to, and maybe that's the stand-up comedy fan in me, but I love being able to look at it from a whole bunch of different angles and being able to laugh at all those different angles.
Yeah,
because that's a true joke. We lost jokes for a while there. It was touch and go. But I feel like if we keep going, we can keep the funny back. It's on life support, but it's doing fine. The doctor says with proper meds, the funny's still going to be around for a while. As long as we keep that wokeism in check with the proper medication.
It is tough, man, because like you can offend anybody with anything, and you gotta be even more fearless. You got to be even more fearless.
Right there.
Yeah. But I mean, like, dude, I got called. I did a joke, dude. I'm for the most part, it's wordplay. It's not that I think I was saying something about like the line was something like, I walked past the church and there was a sign that said Jesus nailed it. And I was like, all right, I get it. Like he was a carpenter and he had good ideas, but saying he nailed it when he was nailed to a cross, wouldn't you think that'd be offensive to some people? Like you don't go past this and they say that. You don't walk past this and they say that. These are the examples. It's not that I'm saying that I believe that this is how it should be. And after I got off stage, the next person that came on stage called me racist Game of Thrones.
Wow.
And I was like, that's a little heartbreaking. I was not trying to hurt anybody's feelings. I was just making jokes. But everybody wants to be righteous.
They do. You want to be righteous. You want to
feel righteous.
Your team to win. I'm on the right side. That guy was on the wrong side, and that person probably won't be doing comedy for very long, because you got to love it, but you also have to understand the premise of I'm saying something, but just because I say that, something, I was going to go really dark, but I was like, no, don't go there. But I tend to go to the dark side on my comedy, but I'll lighten up a bit. But you could say something that extreme to where it will offend people.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to do that one either. But I'm self-checking on a lot of, there was a couple really good Hamas jokes in there that I did not say. Okay. I just want to let the listeners know I censored myself there. And that is what we have to pay attention to, because that is the real problem. Not being able to say something.
You can tell the intention of the reason why we're gathered here in this room is to enjoy ourselves.
Yes.
If there is some people that are enjoying themselves and you're the only one who didn't enjoy that one joke, you're the only one who got offended by that thing. Remember that, like, nobody's supposed to do anything about everything you're offended about. Like, the world's still going to be what it is, and your delusions of righteousness aren't going to change it.
Well, and that's the advent of the internet. It's given that fucking idiot a goddamn phone, and then one of the other idiots is like, "Oh, this person's right. That was wrong." And now you have all these idiots talking to each other. And now it looks like, oh, this is a major problem in America. We have over 20,000 people really concerned that the squirrels are going to be taking all of our food this winter. I'm like, what? No.
If you're having a squirrel problem, it's not so bad for you, son.
But that's the thing. It's just like some people will hyper focus on something that is so inconsequential. You're like, guys, there's this big problem over here. You want to talk about that?
The frog's gay. You're not paying attention. The squirrel, who cares about the squirrels? The frogs are gay.
What are we going to do with all these gay frogs? Alex, give me something. Alien and human pig hybrids aside. But I really think that it's podcasting that is kind of saving jokes. All the best comedians have a podcast.
Was the way that they created Eve was they broke off. If there was an Adam and an Eve frog, to make the Eve frog, they would have to break off one of the Adam frog's ribbits.
That was good. That was good because I appreciate a good corny joke.
Well, were you Gretzky on that? Did you see where it was going before it got there?
There was a little fog. There was a little fog there, and I'm like, where's he going? Is there a turn there? Is there a turn there? But that's where
people who appreciate those kinds of jokes are my audience.
And that's where you're going. That's what you're saying, where you're talking about with your friend of over, and having a deeper connection with them is because they can see through the fog, and they can see like, oh, he's going here. All right, let's go. It's that kind of.
He made a whole like compilation of times when I made jokes on our podcast where the whole room went silent and I had no idea what I was talking about, and it was like the cringy Cory moments or whatever.
Oh, thank God I don't have those on the internet. My old partner deleted all the shit on the YouTube, so I'm like, woo! There's a bunch of moments in my past. I'm like, man, you should have kept your mouth shut.
But I'm saying, like, he'll get all my references and stuff, but when it comes to me being cheesy and corny, he scoffs at that stuff. He's like,
I know.
But I think I got a good sense of my humor from him.
Well, and that's the thing, because my old coworker she used to call me the cheese master, because I would throw out cheesy jokes, but I would do almost like that old school like announcer video game host, and I'd announce that corny joke, and then I would get people to laugh because they'd know I know it's bad. That's why I'm saying it, because it's bad, and then they start laughing. Being able to work in a corny joke, it's hard. I got those quiet moments to where you're like, It's fine. I enjoyed it. Fuck you.
My name is Joshua Park, and this is Bucks County After Dark. Bucksco After Dark.
Oh, this is
Welcome
great.
back.
Tying it all together.
Bucksco After Dark.
I mean, the craziest thing is
I live in Bucksco.
Triforce.
I'm just
With the Triforce, you have a Batman yourself. Did you know that? Bucks County Batman. I had him on Triforce podcast.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you got a Batman over there. And actually,
I think I did know about that because
he did the event in Philly
where we were doing press because we released a short film on YouTube where it was like a alternate universe Bruce Wayne origin story, and it was called Bruce. It's only 15 minutes, but it was really great. And I think it got a couple thumbs down too.
You're doing great. You know, I had 3 minutes. You're doing 15. That's like, damn, that's a whole season on my end.
It might have got 3 or 4 thumbs downs.
Oh, you made it then.
Wow.
Yeah. I didn't know you were big time like that.
I'm a big deal. 3 or 4 thumbs downs on my YouTube video.
Hey, you see, you got 4 thumbs down. I think he's going places.
I think I'm the Bucks County Batman.
But I was calling out all muscle men in Delco to step their game up and do more cosplay like that, because, you know, I was talking to Batman, I was talking to Spider-Man, and I was telling people just like that. And then I say, do you realize how awesome my life is when I get to say, oh, I just got done talking to Spider-Man. Oh, it's all right. I got Batman. Batman, do I need to block you? Come on, man. But no, they're both amazing people, but they're doing amazing things for the community. A lot like what you do with the wrestling. You're bringing joy to a community that had none. They had no fun. The internet killed them and stomped their dreams. And then you come into town with some old-fashioned fun. It's the same kind of thing of being able to connect to people like that.
I don't actually do cosplay as Batman, but
you should. That's my point. More people should do that. Do Green Lantern. Green Lantern.
I do cosplay pro wrestling, so I do it like conventions and things like that. Most like comic book conventions and anime conventions and different kinds of.
Call you out. You have a pass. All the other muscle men in Delco and Bucksco, step your fucking game up because you're already doing the Lord's work.
I'm Aquaman in those cosplay pro wrestling matches.
But like I just said, Aquaman, go right ahead. Fucking
I think it brings some joy to people.
Oh yeah.
Brings some joy
and the thing is,
like
Delco Spidey, he started doing it when he got fired from his job, and now he's running for Valentine's Day. He goes out Valentine's Day and around Christmas. He goes out to the schools, and he also goes to the retirement communities. So he'll have the kids write cards for the people in the retirement communities, and they'll go give the cards. And then the people in the retirement communities, some of them are like, they used to be teachers, they used to be principals. They haven't seen a card from a kid in a very long time. And it means the world to them because they're also getting a fucking card from Spider-Man. It's that kind of joy to where I see it's this guy just donating his time and being able to bring a lot of joy to people. And that's just like with the cosplay, being out at the con. Some of these people with cosplay are spectacular. But if you're going to do that level and be that Delco Spidey or Batman or Spider-Man, you're going to be shelling out some major cash. They told me, like, I think Spidey told me his first suit was like $750.
Yeah. Dude, my gear that I wrestle in, not the Aquaman stuff, but I'm saying like my regular stuff, like it's all custom stuff. So it's all stuff I had to design. Like I'm commissioning seamstresses and artists and all that. Like the being a pro wrestler, I think being a pro wrestler, being a cosplayer, and being a drag queen are all kind of the same thing. Yeah. Like we're all really into the getting this part of it right. When it comes to the presentation of it.
Yeah.
Of course, with with all of the things, there's risks involved, but with ours, there's like more of a physical, like all the time risk.
Yeah, I don't really have a lot of all the time risk. I mean, maybe pull a muscle in my back in my day-to-day job, but even podcasting, like what? Maybe I got a paper cut. Maybe I don't have any paper around here. It's the digital age, but
well, I mean, I wouldn't say being a pro wrestler is my full-time job. I mean, it's I say I have a pro wrestling career, but it's not anything that's ever earned me a full-time living.
Well, that's also a good correction on my part, because a job and a career are two completely different things.
Right. I've always had a pro wrestling career. Say I have a broadcasting career. Say I have an acting career, but none of those things have actually given me a career salary. But those are just the things that like I'm gonna show this again because I show it every time. I'm beating my drum as many times. There's a drum for every one of the things that I'm passionate about in the circle of my soul, and I'll never stop beating my drum, and those will be my careers until something else.
It's because you're passionate about it. And like I said in previous podcasts, that a lot of my friends don't have a passion. Now, maybe that I see that I'm not seeing that correctly. And my passion's my family. It's not this outward thing. People have passions about different things, but especially like a passion and having a goal in something that is not monetarily, it won't make sense for a very long time, confuses people. Like, I can't tell you how many
risk. It's mostly a risk, and for the most part, most people don't make it. Most people who do the thing that I'm trying to do don't make it in that thing. That I'm doing multiple things at a time where most people won't make it doing it. That makes me feel like
I don't even want to try.
Yeah, a lot of people will talk about how they're going to do the things and then never do it.
Yeah.
So not even fail at doing it, fail at ever starting to do it.
I'd rather fail at doing it.
Yeah,
myself. If I had to choose, not that I would want to fail, but if I had to choose, I'd rather fail in the act. I'd rather go down in that plane trying to do the flip.
I quote Napoleon Hill.
But it's that kind of passion that we both have, and I feel that it's not something that a lot of people have actually really been able to, like, I haven't been able to really connect with a lot of different people outside of like Christopher Bristow and my brother and different people like that. I haven't been able to explain, like, no, I'm going to this event. Oh, are you getting paid? I lie to them. I tell them, yeah, because it's just easier for them to quantify why I'm taking my time out.
None of their business.
Why wouldn't you want to make overtime? Why wouldn't you want to make money over here? You can make money over here.
Right.
If I was concerned about money, I would have paid attention in school. I wouldn't have been doing this. I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing for a living. I'm doing what I do because I have a passion. It's the same thing that I see from you. It's almost like I got a fucking Dragon Ball Scouter, and I'm like, oh, his levels.
I don't know what that means.
Like me.
I don't know what that means, but I love it.
Exactly. You got it's a full thing. Sometimes you just say the jokes out there, not for the person that's in the box, but for the person that's watching the box. Giggity. A gas station. And I was running delivery and I got fired because I went out for a cigarette. It was this old Greek guy who was running the store, and he's just like, come back when you grow up. Like, all right. I had my friend pick me up because I just got into an accident running delivery for this guy. I almost died. I made a U-turn where I shouldn't have. I looked right. I looked left. And when I looked left, I saw a Mercedes-Benz emblem coming at my head doing 80, coming to a stop. So I looked down at the gear shifter, and I thought, if I put it in reverse, I'll blow the trends. And I'll probably die. If I gun it, I could get it away from my head. The car literally hit like right back here. So I just got it away from myself. I wasn't wearing a seatbelt. And right in the initial jolt, that's when you go out the window. But I distinctly remember to this day a hand right here holding me in the seat.
Mm.
And I can't explain it. I broke down crying to my mom after that, like I should have died. And she's like, no. I'm like, you don't understand, man. I wasn't wearing my seatbelt and I was going that way. So I can't explain it. But I don't know. That's one thing I've never been able to explain in my life. That little incident. And then years later, to what you're saying, they called me up. I was working for Giant in the deli. And then they called me up like, hey, can Matt work this weekend? Like, yo, I haven't worked for you in over a year. No, I'm not grown up yet.
But the divinity of
I was supposed to go
you
back.
getting tired in that moment, it had to mean some sort of sinky thing.
I would have been Pope if I would have went back to work that day. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, but there is that like divine intervention to where you're like, okay, that was weird.
I call that story my big fat Greek firing.
It was right out there. It was like low-hanging fruit, and you're just like, blip. That's been in front of you your whole life. Like, thanks. Couldn't reach. That was so good.
You can have that from now on. I've gifted that to you.
But it's like those weird kind of life interactions to where there's like so many stories and so many people that you meet that it's awesome, but it's also like certain points in my life I'm like, I have to be very nice to this person because I don't know if I'll make it out with my spleen.
It's so weird to hear stories like that and to like know every other story you've ever heard that's regarding some sort of divine intervention, some sort
I've
of
never
like
talked about that, by the way.
Some sort of
the first time I've ever said that on a podcast.
Well, that's amazing. That's amazing. And I'm very glad you shared it. Thank you for sharing that. But I was saying, like, to hear all the stories that are similar to that, and like people who just instinctively knew that things had to be this way for things to work out the right way, just trusting their gut on it, and like the coincidences and the synchronicities line up so perfectly that there's no possible way that could just be a coincidence. And the fact, like, to hear all that kind of stuff and be like, I'm still a complete atheist on things. I don't think I could truly mean that if I were to say it, but I have my moments where I'm so agnostic with a lot of things.
Yeah. Agnostic's the better word, I feel, because you can't trust people in especially written word that has been passed down through history. What do you listen? What factoid do you listen to your dad that isn't public knowledge?
Right, and
has that weird, crazy
a little bit of flavor from whoever's writing it the next time, and it's interpreted through languages and languages and languages so many times. It's whispered down the lane.
Core belief that is real there? Absolutely, I felt it. I just don't believe people. I believe that yes, maybe whatever you want to believe, yes. That is real. There is, a higher power. I have felt it. I can't say no.
When you were telling your story, and you were like, I looked left and I looked right.
I can still see it in my head.
Then you saw the Mercedes Benz flying at you.
It was black.
Right? What was it?
It was a black Mercedes.
Black Mercedes. Yeah. So it was a peace sign.
Bye.
Peace. We don't kill you now. Peace.
That's what I was saying.
Then somebody else was like, whoa.
Yeah.
Leave this piece here.
Yeah.
When you were telling that part of the story, I was in the back of my head already singing I Just Can't Wait to Be King from Lion King. Everybody look left. Everybody look right. Everybody look, I'm avoiding headlights.
It's crazy you bring up anime. That I don't know why it jostled me back to my last podcast with Jabbar Brown, where he was telling a story where he's in animation. He was working with somebody in animation, and they're talking about like this crazy escape plot for a movie to where it's like a cowboy and an astronaut trying to escape a house. And I'm like, hang on, man. Are you trying to tell me they wanted you to work on toys? You're like, yeah. What? And instead, and then he goes to, well, instead they brought me down to Seth MacFarlane. He was there working on a project with HBO, like, and I'm sitting there editing, like, then he goes to HBO Spawn. What are you telling me? You know, that kind of lining
these
up.
These are all larger stories than
yeah. Like, oh,
I get being humble, but like, tell me the actual thing.
I bumped into Don King when I was in 4th grade.
Mm-hmm.
We left the day of the Tyson Holyfield fight,
mm-hmm.
and we were in Las Vegas. We were checking out at the front, and we were walking out to the front door where my dad had the car waiting, and there was one guy, and then damn cord, 2 bigger, beefier guys, bodyguards on either side. And it's me, my mom, and my brother. They go outside. I go in. I've seen football. Let's go. I go right in. And ignorant little fucking brat I was, I bump into this guy. I look back, and I see the hair in a point. He was everywhere in the news then. Everybody knew Don King, even me as a 4th grader. And I go to my mom and my brother. I'm like, I just bumped into Don King, literally. My brother goes, cool. My mom goes, who?
and you were excited.
I was excited. I was like, I literally bumped into that guy.
Do you know where my brain goes right away when you tell me that? Oh, I just can't wait to meet King.
Right back to Lion King. As it should. I can't wait to be king. Vote for me now. That's how that works, right?
Oh, these threads will constantly be pulled on.
It's how it should be. It's how it should be. You know? It goes back to that traditional radio, you know? I mean, being able to be in the studio, like meet like legendary broadcasters like Pierre Robert and Bubba John. That was awesome. Back then, you know, radio, it was radio and TV.
Dude, Pierre rocks, man. I mean, anybody listening to this outside of the Philadelphia,
he's the best
Philly, New Jersey area.
He's a legend.
If you were to look up Pierre Robert, you'd see that he's like a legend in this area, on radio legend for sure.
Oh, huge, like huge personality. But he is so short. Like, I feel tall. I'm like 5'5", and I'm like, Pierre? Like, I can't believe such an immense personality is like compressed into such, you know, this tiny guy.
I've never actually met Pierre.
Oh, he is amazing. When my brother and I, we called up MMR when I was in 8th grade, and we had the idea to do funny voices. We had these people that lived down the street from us, and on their mailbox were the Stoners. It was their last name. And we would always make these funny stoner voices. And one time we had the idea to call up MMR, and we were driving down Route 1 in Oxford, because that's why we did. We were driving down to the mall. It's like a 45-minute drive.
You're talking about Oxford Valley, PA?
Oxford, PA, out in Chester County.
Okay.
Right out there by, like,
when you said Route 1, I know that. I live in Langhorne, so I'm right. I'm right by Oxford Valley, so that's what I thought you were talking about.
The other one, the one with a lot of fields. And MMR, we still barely got them. Like back out then, you'd have days to where something was affecting it. But we would call in, and this is like 2001, 2002. We called in and we were Chuck and Charlie Stoney. And we got the name because we were requesting the Grateful Dead Truckin', but he asked us our names. So we said Chuck. So we're Chuck and Charlie. We kept calling in. And one day we asked to be in studio. And then, for a while we were in studio, we were doing stuff with Raz to the point to where one of the bits we did got nominated for a national radio award. Mm-hmm. And then when the Eagles are doing good, Tasty Cake had that green filling. Mm-hmm. It was right then. And they went to MMR. They're like, hey, these stoner brothers you got on there, we want them to go out and look for the green filling, but we want them to find like the wrong thing. They keep finding everything else but Tasty Cake. And I was like, damn, we made it. We got fucking Tasty Cake asking us to do a fucking ad for them.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And that was 8th grade. And then it's like, you go to high school and nobody cares.
No. Yeah. Yeah. Like it's cool to think like someone somewhere will recognize you for something. Yeah. But the majority of people are going to have absolutely no idea.
But it speaks to it because what you do ultimately, you got to be happy with. Like what I do, I'm genuinely trying to entertain myself.
Right. Yeah. Dude, I can't believe he never played any of it as bumps, or he always throws those hilarious bumpers out there, dude. When he did the one with the you don't know my name, the Chris Cornell.
I love that
one. Cracks me up.
I love that. And that kind I like when I was doing Triforce, I tried to start running gags and stuff like that, because if you live in the Philadelphia area, and to say you weren't affected by MMR is very hard. Mm-hmm. The legendary, how many radio stations have disappeared?
Dude, Y100 was my jam. I went to number one on my dial, like for sure, all the time.
We were MMR. We were an MMR house. We didn't go YSP. We didn't go, Y100. I first found Preston and Steve when they went on to MMR.
Well, I think I liked Y100 because it was more alternative. Yeah. Like they had more like alternative than like classics and everything. Yeah. Everything that rocks. That's their whole thing. Yeah. But Y100 was dedicated to alternative rock.
See, I would flip to Y100 or YSP whenever MMR were on their like commercial binges, like we gotta pay the bills, and I'm like, guess what?
Now I don't really listen to the radio. Normally, when I'm in the car, I just turn on podcasts. I listen to
podcasts or audiobooks,
Spotify. Yeah. So
I'm listening to the Bhagavad Gita right now.
Are you?
Yeah,
I have that.
Yeah, it's 8 hours long. I'm like, fuck it, let's go, bud.
Is it on something? Is it on?
It's on Audible. Yeah, I'm hooked up to my brother's Audible, and he's a psychologist. He has a lot of really great books.
It would be interesting. I feel like that would be such an interesting thing to listen to, especially because like when you're reading it, you don't know how to. I know you're reading it, but you don't know how it's pronounced as you're reading all these things.
That's why I love
listening to it on audio would be more fascinating than anything.
Dude, it's how I got through Game of Thrones. I tried to go through Dune. I still feel like I need at least a family tree to be able to figure my way out through that one. But, I've listened to like Robert Greene, 48 Laws of Power. I've listened to, a whole bunch of different books to just expand my mind. And especially since I'm tiptoeing into comic book writing now. My podcast partner, Frank, in Tales of the Hunted, is Frank Percy. He used to ink Punisher War Journals. And I met him. I had him on the podcast 3 years ago at the Game and DVD Exchange. And like a tiger, I just latched my claws into him. One meeting, I was with him and Mark Gervais, and they were talking about the comic Caribe the Hunted. And they were talking about this backstory that they needed for the comic. And it was like double Dutch. I was just like, I don't know what I said to Frank, but he was just like, Matt, are you telling me you're a writer? And I was like, yeah. So I got the pleasure to write the backstory for his comic, Caribe the Hunted. It's called Chronicles of the Hunted. It's about the aliens, the Tishan Quis, and how they become this big baddie. And it was stepping out of my norm. When I was talking to Jabbar Brown, his question to me was it scary? And I was like, yeah, it was scary. I was pestering Frank every moment that I stepped behind the keyboard. And he just told me, write it. Just write it. Just write it down. Do it. And then I sat down and I wanted to seriously write. And I realized one thing that helps me when I'm writing is I listen to music, especially rap music. When I was writing Caribe the Hunted, or Chronicles of the Hunted, rather, I put on Wu-Tang Clan, Protect Your Neck, and then let the YouTube algorithm go from there. And then that music going on, I went through it. I wrote the 12 pages, and we're working on getting Caribe out this year with the Kickstarter. So it's like you're saying, being, from divine intervention to now trying to connect all these dots that are popping up in front of me.
Let me bring up a weird, funny sync, because it's funny that you bring up Wu-Tang. And as we were getting ready to record, and I was like, hold on, let me go use the bathroom real quick, and I'll come right back. As I was peeing, I was singing it was from Wu-Tang Forever. It was I think it's called Visions. But I was saying SWAPodolype now. Mind over matter, next spot I beat the girl. And I was saying SWAPod.
That's a good name. But that's the thing that I think that, especially rap music, it's something, it's like dynamite in my brain when I'm trying to, I find a lot of, like, even what I'm a parts guy. And for a body shop, I'm in my part shed checking in the stuff. I'm listening to music, and then I'll get a great idea. And it's like a dynamite just went off, and you got to capture it. And it happens more frequently when it's something a lot more lyrically focused, like rap music or like a good rock song. A lot of the poppy kind of music doesn't really do it, but it's finding inspiration wherever you can and figuring out how you work, because that's one thing. There's not a lot of guidance in being creative. You just figure it out for yourself. You toss the baby in the pool and hope it doesn't drown.
I used to work in an equipment, like kitchen equipment supply warehouse in the parts department.
Not very far off from the knives.
And it was an actual job. It wasn't a MLM. It was
you're evolving. Job. See,
right.
You evolved from the knives onto the kitchen equipment.
Right.
That's enough.
So it was more like for commercial refrigerators and stuff. Right?
So you stepped up to the 11th step, you took the high step.
The reason I don't have that job anymore is because I kept breaking stuff. I kept.
Yeah, that'll do it.
They started to call me the part break kid.
I'm telling you, when somebody wants to grill you at a job, they will find the most insulting name that just fits. And
I just made that part up. They didn't call me that. I called me that.
Man, that was so good. I believed it, because that's a person move. You see what I'm saying? The creative juices.
Part break kid, like the Heartbreak Kid, but with parts. You see.
See, now I'm looking back on it. It's so corny. I should have known it was a setup. I should have known. It's a delayed reaction. Damn.
Cornelius Corny Kastle. Yeah.
Yeah. The fog will lift. The fog will lift the more crossovers we do.
It's inevitable. Inevitable.
So, are you a Marvel fan?
I started watching Echo last night.
Okay. How did you like it? I watched it twice. How did you like it?
I'm only 2 episodes in. It's pretty rad. I don't know.
Two episodes is the perfect suggestion point for a show, because at 2 episodes you either hooked me or you didn't.
Right.
So it hooked you as well, I'll say.
Either you hooked me or you mistook me.
Now, was it Echo that hooked you, or was it Kingpin?
It was the music. It was the it was
The
it
first
was the
scene
way
was
it was filmed. It was like it was the highlight on like I guess representation, right? Like
Mhm.
I love the whole kind of culture that they
well, they're setting
highlighted.
in a deep culture, but
Mhm.
they're also setting up almost like a backstory with it,
Right.
saying, "Hey, superheroes have always been here. You
Right.
guys haven't been paying attention to them because, hey,
Mhm.
here's this whole Native American tribe,
Right.
whole line of badass women that
Mhm.
nobody was looking at."
And
That's one of the things I like.
one of my favorite bands, one of my go-to bands I listen to all the time, and they're called A Tribe Called Red. They're from a First Nation tribe in Canada,
Okay,
and they have a lot of their music in the show, and I'm like,
that's awesome.
"Oh, I love that."
That's a
Like,
little
so, like,
Easter egg I wouldn't have picked up on.
Electric Powwow, like, that was as soon as it came on, I was like,
Yeah.
"Yeah!" Like,
See, that's the thing that they do right with little nerdy
yeah,
Easter
yeah.
eggs like that, where, oh, I know that. And it's
Mhm,
not just like, hey, comic book thing here or there. Sometimes it's audible. It's, little things like that and subtleties in design and
mhm.
music that the people behind it put in. And you see that passion bleeding through.
What's a weird thing, and I think I was just talking about this with Necro the other day about how like I don't really read comic books. I don't. Um, it's not that like I don't like them. It's just that
Mhm.
like I'm so distractible. My attention span is not. It's like I'll put it down. Like I just read most of uh the Last Ronin.
Okay.
We got through most of it, and now I'm sitting at like the last half of it, or like the little last bit of it I have left.
Yeah.
It's been sitting there, not read.
Yeah.
The rest of it
See,
hasn't. I haven't read it.
I'm a compendium guy. I'll grab the whole story so that way I can just pick it up and read it. Like I
Mhm.
have Doomsday Clock. I have all of Neil Gaiman's Sandman, all 4 volumes. They're
Mhm.
like thick as a dick. They're all like that fucking thick.
Mhm.
And I
I have.
also I go to Ollie's, so I'll get small compendiums just to read a story. So
Mhm.
being able to set it down and put it down. I mean, I'm kind of ADD too because I feel like personally, especially with podcasting, like if I'm not creating, I could be doing something, or I could be
Right.
booking a guest, or I could be doing something
It
creative.
feels opposite of productive.
I feel like I'm being lazy.
Mhm.
And
That's why I don't play video games.
I
I
hear
mean, I
David
love
Goggins
video
in my
games. I'm
head,
just not
like,
good
who's
at
gonna carry the boats? Like, quit being a bitch. Get up
it.
and do something.
Right. I'm it's not that like I hate video games. I don't dislike them. I like
I
video
love them.
games. I'm not good at them. And people go, well, you just got to spend more time playing and then you'll get better. I'm like, if I got to keep on being bad to get better, I'm wasting time. I got other stuff to do. I got
Yeah.
more goals in
Yeah.
mind than
Yeah.
to like kind of sit
Look,
behind a video game.
I love video games, but it's a lot like with with Steve Morrison and Preston back in the day. Preston would always say, I was really big into video games and then I fell out. That's kind of where I'm at. Like, I will play a video game. Like right now, a dedicated, like when I play a game, I bought this game, I'm going to play it because I'm not that kind of person. I would play like I have like over 300 to 400 games on my Steam library because when I was doing my first podcast, part of it was video game content creation. In the beginning of podcasting, it was video games were really big in YouTube. That's how you'd get a lot of views, and then it would funnel into the podcast. And I would get messages from the video game creators like, "Hey, we like how you did this video. It's not like how they did it. You added X, Y, and Z."
It's not
And
like
it's like
not.
the evolution of all of that kind of leads into where we're at today.
Mhm.
It's something that I mean, I've stopped trying to think of what I will do in the future. Try to lean into what you're doing now
Mhm.
and recognize like, who can I get on? Who's around me right now? Like I was talking to Chris. He was like, why don't you talk to Cory? He told me about you years ago. And I was like, I don't know why I haven't done it before.
Well, I guess there hasn't been the divine push.
Chris, look, one big thing with him, he does do this, but it pisses me off because I'll come to him with what I think is an original idea, and he'll be like, yeah, I know. I told you this on this date, and I incepted the idea into you. He loves I incepted that idea into you.
Mm-hmm.
I'll come to, oh, well, actually, I told you about that. Like, look, man, I come around to it in the back end. I get it. I still love him, but he does have a lot of great ideas.
My trainer, my coach, my wrestling coach, Eddie Valentine is his name. He had this saying where he would come up with ideas, and then he'd tell who the boss was at the time. His name was Zandig. He would tell Zandig the ideas, and Zandig would turn them down. And then like later on, he'd say his own idea back to him. And he's like, oh yeah, it just had to get Xanatized. so I fully understand where you're coming from.
Yeah. You know, it gets frustrating, but ultimately I love that I have him in my life because I wouldn't be where I'm at today without him. You know, he's my best friend and my brother from another mother. You know, I really feel like I've developed a family through life. You know, these people that stick by your side and they believe in you and they push you forward, even in your darkest moments. Like, you know, we're in 2024 now. So 2022 was a really hard year for me. You know, like I told you before, I got 2 degrees in the automotive industry. I've been in the auto industry since I got out of high school. I was the expert. I was the guy. I know cars. I got fired for not being likable enough. I had too many bad surveys. And it rocked my world. I was in the lowest of my low points.
When you got fired, what kind of noise did you make? Did you go yelp?
Honestly, I saw it coming because I felt burnout.
It was just a joke for me. For me.
It's cool. I saw it.
Yelp
reviews.
You see.
Yeah, I saw it. But it was that kind of thing where, you know, you're meeting in the auto industry, you're meeting a person at usually the worst moment of
their life. They're stressed.
Nobody wants to see you. It's like going to the doctor or the dentist. You don't want to see this person. So ultimately having a friendly personality and stuff like that, stuff I cultivated through the years, but the grind of the corporate machine, especially after COVID, it was really hard on the auto industry because everything stopped.
And you know, the grinding's not good for the parts.
It's not. And
that's your whole get up there.
Because when everything stops, that money lubrication, well, all owners feel that. And they're like, let's tighten up a bit. And then that tightening of the noose never loosened. And it was that kind of, you know, it's not, I don't think it's as prevalent in other industries. The auto industry is very special in that, you know, not in a good way, because for me as a service advisor, most of my salary, most of my take home pay was based off of those customer surveys. And that's something that I don't think is right. You shouldn't base somebody's livelihood and their whole, you know, their whole life on whether somebody likes them. There was a Black Mirror episode about that. Right. I guess not enough people watched.
No, that's the social credit score.
Yeah. I was living that. That's what service advisors and people in your service industry are living through. They are really nice to you for a reason. Their mother might have just died. Guess what their boss tells them? Check your shit at the door. You got to sell.
I'm in the service industry myself. I live off of tips. So if people don't give me tips, I'm most of the time I'm paying to be your server. Like if you don't tip me, like you are stealing from me.
Yeah.
Like you get that being a server only pays $2.83 an hour.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like, oh, he makes plenty of money. It's dude,
I've been there, yeah.
Yeah, it's tough because like living in like a tip culture for serving makes me go like, man, what, like performers should be able to get tips, because like I think as wrestlers we don't make a lot of money.
Yeah.
As like we're paid so little for what independently, I'm saying independent wrestlers get paid so little for the amount of work that they do, the amount of risks that we take,
I would say that
amount
for
of miles that we drive,
irregardless of like bigs or however much you get paid. Even when you look at the bigs, you're on the road 52 weeks of the year. Right. You're constantly performing. When you get home, you're broken, you're beaten, you're tired, you're putting your all out there every night. You know, I don't have to jump from my second story window just to get a laugh on a podcast. There's something extraordinary that you do that nobody else does, you know, and that's not something to be lost. It's not lost on me, rather, because I see that effort. Not a lot of people are willing to do what you do as serious and take it as seriously as you do.
Everybody, if this is your first time checking out Cory Kastle and evolving with Cory Kastle, I beg you. I'm not really one to beg for the most part, but I'm saying just prove to me that you exist. If you actually exist and have consumed any of this, I love all the currency of your effort. I love that very much. The only call to action I would say is prove to me that you exist. Yeah. Comment, like, subscribe, reach out to me. I'm not somebody who's not going to reach back. So if my DMs are wide open all the time. So if
I've had people actually comment on my YouTube, and then I'll hit a like, and then they delete it. It's just gone. Like, scary. Did I scare you off? Are you a lemming?
I think that they're just trying to seem anonymous, anonymous.
Yeah, but it was a like. Like nobody's like, oh, right. Good. Perjangers and Wallhangers like that comment. Okay, we can keep scrolling through these comments.
I've never seen the identity of who dislikes or likes anything I've ever put out. Like no. You can never see, right? You can't see who were the people who left the thumbs ups on things,
well, even on YouTube, you can't see who liked it. It's just like you got likes. Who?
So go ahead and stay anonymous. Just throw me some likes or some followers.
Subscribe, you know,
right? Follow, subscribe, any of that stuff, man. I'm at Cory Kastle on everything. at CORYKASTLE. CK Cory Kastle.
At PJANDWH. That's where you're going to find everything with Perjangers and Wallhangers. Very, very specific marketing name there. Mm-hmm. But
well,
the production network's going out.
The marketing of the fact that like that doesn't exist and you've made it exist is very smart. And then, but I think the abbreviating it or like, you know, putting it into the how would that be? And then
anagram?
And the anagram of it, mm-hmm. I think is a little confusing.
It is. That's why I have to spell it out. I can't say PJNWH because then you think it's an N.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, but PJANDWH.
Like this is why I think I make everything Cory Kastle. There's never underscores or dashes or anything.
I didn't make it. I didn't title any of that, by the way. That was all Chris. That was all Chris.
Like when it comes, like I was saying this to my girl recently, and she got mad at me because I was like, it's not really mad, but you know, she was like, hey, because I was like, I was like, I don't like when anyone has like underscores or anything. An underscore is hard to find on a phone, like on your phone.
You got to search for that,
right? So like, you're asking people who already don't have time to make effort to do things. You're asking them to make an extra effort. I'd just rather say, just here's what the words are. Here's what the words are. Type them in and you'll find me.
Yeah.
And
well, I mean, Cory Kastle, and especially the way you spell it, it's that kind of Perjangers thing. But that's why Perjangers kind of works, because you may have to spell. How's that spelled? How it sounds. You know, you type it in there, it's only us. It's like
sound it out, big guy.
When you type in evolving with Cory Kastle, only you show up. When you type in Tales of the Hunted podcast, it's me and Frank. You know, it's having that is a factor, but you also, it works against you because it's not a readily searched thing. You're original, you know, you have to work to set that message out. And if you find a quicker way to do it, let me know, because I'm 6 years in trying to find that shortcut up, but it's just a whole lot of footwork.
Have you ever interviewed for Tales of the Hunted ducks? Any ducks?
Not particularly. Not a lot of them have the vocal capacity, but I am willing. I am 100% willing. Any ducks that want to be hunted.
I've heard they're hunted pretty often, and they have some real fine ducktails. Woo.
You know, that is an expert level joke. But also,
and sometimes they have really funny stories, and they'll quack you up.
I'll reach out to my guests, and one thing I've been doing, because it's funny for me, because it sounds wrong, but I tell them, you know, hey, I have this podcast with Frank Percy called Tales of the Hunted. We highlight indie content creators, and I want my fans to hunt you.
Yeah,
I do a ... metaphorically, just in case. I'm not putting all that effort out there. There's no physical, you know, Island of Dr. Monroe hunting. It's just, I want to talk to you. And my one of my next guests coming up, Marion Toro, voice over actress. I sent that message to her. I want my fans to hunt you, metaphorically. She thought I was trying to hire her for like a job, and she's like, "Oh, here's this podcast." I was like, I want to talk. I want to talk to you. I want to talk to you. But so it's like, you kind of like, it's something, words can be very easily misinterpreted.
Yeah, it's weird how you gotta like kind of tippy toe around how you approach people to be guests on the podcast. Because I think in the beginning,
cool and funny.
Because in the beginning, I think I would be like, "Hey, let's do a podcast," and people would be like, "You want us to start our own podcast? What about me makes you think I want to start a podcast with you?" I'm like, "Oh, I don't want us to start a podcast. I don't want to have to talk to you all the time.
No, just once. We'll
just
start
one time.
Once. One. Don't get over presumptuous. It's just one and done."
On my podcast, my name is in the title of the podcast, but that doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to be interviewing you. We'll have a conversation where like some deep stuff will come up, and like, and like, I'll kind of follow a format in my own head, and it's all unspoken, and it's like, it's more skillful than an interview. It's more of like a hang.
Yes, it's a conversation. That's what I try to tell people, because a lot of people will get put off right now with the word podcast,
or like, "Oh, I don't know. I don't know if I could be interviewed. I don't know."
Delco,
what's interesting enough about me?
Delco Spider-Man. These guys, they're out there in the public. Delco Batman popped his podcasting cherry on Tales of the Hunted. Delco Spider-Man, same. I don't know if it was his first, but it was one of his first. And as a podcaster, I'm sure you could tell.
Yeah, there's the seasoning that you can smell in the air.
But it was one of those things to where they're asking me like, "Oh, well, is there anything you need me to do? Anything like that?" I'm like, "Look, man, I'll send you a Discord link. Click on it. Most people go on their phone, set it, have fun. It's a conversation. We're just talking." And with Delco, Batman, and Spider-Man, it's like, all right, I'm just talking to Batman.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just talking to Spider-Man. I'm friends with both of those guys now. They're awesome. But it's that kind of thing of like instructing somebody like, look, forget what you thought. It's just me and you. It's not intimidating.
Yeah, whatever your
everybody is able to watch it. So if you talk like a jackass, believe me, they'll let you know. But it's just a conversation.
Right. Yeah, it's weird, man. Like I've had so many experiences, good and bad, both being a guest and having guests on my show, my shows. It's a variety. You know what I mean? There's no thing that goes, yep, that's the absolute common denominator in all of it.
Yeah.
Me saying that is to then say, with all the podcasts that you've been on, all the times that you've been, like you said, you only told me that you were only interviewed or anything on a podcast one time. You've only been a guest.
Just been the host ever,
Yeah, mostly just hosting. What's something that someone on a podcast has never asked you before that you may have wanted the public to know? Something that you've wanted to, that you maybe have wanted to share or answer a question that you've never been asked. What would that question be?
I guess it would be, well, I have the answer ultimately in my head. The question is a little bit, I don't know, but it would be, why are you doing this? Because it's a complex question for me. Ultimately, I podcast because I enjoy doing it and I love it. I love meeting new people. I love talking. I've been talking to people, much to my father's dismay, for a long time. Back when I was a kid, you could do this back then. A lot of people get abducted doing it now. I would walk up in the grocery store and talk to random strangers. My dad would be running around the store frantically trying to find me, and he'd find me talking to some old couple. What's your name? Hi, my name's Matthew. Like, I've always wanted to talk. And I remember when I was really young, my grandfather got cancer around his larynx. And to this day, I can't remember how his voice sounded. He was a very wise man. He was, that first hero that you have as a kid. And it's one of the reasons when my friend at my old podcast company talked to me about podcasting, it's an internet radio show. One of my first thoughts was, after I leave this ethereal plane, those that I leave behind, if you miss me, I'm right here. You'll always be able to find me. You'll always be able to remember, that's my kooky Matt, man. That's him. That's my guy. And then as I started podcasting, it kind of, I'm going with the theme here. It evolved because it became, well, I'm just playing for that one person who's watching. I'm just playing for that one fan.
Right.
And now, well, I'm podcasting because I want to talk about the amazing people I've had on, like Josh Shockley, because he's sent me so many guests. I want to talk about Johnny Necro because he's an amazing human being, and he's just continuously sent me a lot of love and support. And then it's the next step is, why do I do any of the creative things that I do? Is because I'm just a nerdy kid from Delco trying to do good. Nobody told me I could do this. And maybe, just maybe, a kid out there can watch me having fun with my friends, and they can have an idea that will just change somebody else's life. Almost like a pay it forward. It's a little selfless. It's also selfish because a normal person wouldn't do this. But it became, from doing it for myself, doing it for my family, doing it for my friends, to doing it for my community. And ultimately, I want to build everybody else up. I want to inspire you to do you maybe you make a charcuterie board. Maybe you could be a caterer. Maybe you could do something that you didn't think you could do, because all this stuff that I'm doing, I never thought I would have been able to do. I never would have thought that I would have been able to be friends with a former Marvel comic inker and then have a whole podcast with him, and then him let me write an entire backstory. Bud, I was a nerdy kid looking at comics for the art, watching all the TV shows. I didn't think I could create anything. And now I am. And now I want that. That is why. Why am I doing this is the best question I think nobody has ever asked me. And it's because I'm doing it for the person that hasn't watched this yet. The person who's going to look at this and say, damn, Matt Man was right. And he inspired me to do this. That's my ultimate dream, is to inspire somebody to do something amazing.
That sounds pretty parallel with me, man. Honestly, I think that part of, and I say this on every episode, so if you've heard it before, you can stop me. But I said, when I first started the show, my mom had this like CD made of voicemails that were left on an old phone from her mom who had passed and her best friend who had passed. She said, you know how like when people die, you kind of forget what their voice sounds like. Yeah. And I remember being like, I don't want that.
Yeah.
And I want, you know, if I pass on and you miss me, you can listen to me from the start of when I started this in 2017 to whenever I'm living till. Because I'm never going to stop doing this. You know, the whole like you stop evolving, you start dying. Yeah. I plan on doing this for the rest of my life. And I called it Evolving with Cory Kastle, so that you can watch me evolve. You can evolve with me. You can maybe be inspired by some of the actions that I'm inspired by. Yeah. Or maybe I can just add some sort of value in somebody's life. And if even if it doesn't happen now, if my audience doesn't find me now, if my audience finds me and that audience is one person 10 years after I'm gone and they're inspired to be a particular way or look at things a different way or change their perspectives on how to love themselves or how to be kinder to themselves, I'll feel like it's what I was born for. Yeah. I'll feel like that's why I was put on this planet, and it's worked double ways for me. I've had friends on this podcast that I've lost, and I can, like, after I lost them, I go back and that helps me through it. Us talking like for real and saying like on the record, like, I love you, man. This is the kind of stuff, like, you're somebody who means this type of thing to me, and this is why you mean this thing. And I want to make sure that's on the record. And then that person's not with us anymore. I have that forever. Yeah. Like one of my friends, he died in 2019. But I had him on my podcast in 18 and 17. And we had these on the record conversations, and he was talking about how great his wife is, and he was talking about all these amazing things. He was and in 2019, when he died, his wife was 9 months pregnant. So I think now of like that little girl growing up and hearing that, and what that'll mean to her, and I just kind of I hope that she finds it. You know what I mean? I hope that somehow stumbles across, like when I'm looking up who was Chris Cotton, and because that's her dad, she wants to look him up and consume all of his work. If she comes across those recordings, she'll know on the record that he was like the true grit, like absolutely sincere, like angel of a man.
Yeah. I had a friend. It was back in my previous podcast days, so it would have been lost, but I was going to have him on, and life happened. A lot like, I'm sure you know, when you try to get a guest on, sometimes life slips in there and you don't get them. And man, I just started being his friend and then I lost him. It was a car accident and it was big, especially for my group of friends. It really hit hard. And I had this thought, as especially even now to this day, as I keep going, that Pat was so into it. He was ready to just sit and talk about nerdy shit. And we never got it to happen. So knowing that you got that moment with your friend is almost like a comforting thing on my part, because I never got that moment with my friend that I lost.
I mean, I have friends who I didn't get a chance to have that moment with, and I wish that I had. But I consider myself lucky that I continue to have conversations on the record with people who, like, this is going to mean something to both of us at some point. This will mean something to anybody. Like, dude, I just had there was a wrestler named Jimmy Rave, and he recently died, maybe last year, and his daughter was reaching out to me, asking me about like stuff of his that I might have. And I was like, I don't have any of that stuff, but I do have this podcast that we recorded together back in 2018. It's a 4-hour episode. You can listen to the whole thing.
Yeah.
And if you want to tell me how you feel about it at the end, I'm here to listen. If not, I'm fine with that too. And no, she was like, you got the real him. Like, not a lot of people got the real him. And I'm like, that's great. You'll have that forever now. I hope you love that.
Yeah.
His daughter was like 19, 20 years old. Like, she was an adult.
It's a magic, almost like a magic feeling when you get a moment like that. Like, it's not something you go out and strive for when you're doing this.
Some of that is part of my why. Like, I don't want to say that I have one why, but those are all ingredients to the why for everything. Moments.
There's two kinds of people, why and why not. It was a line from Kevin Smith's book, his first one, Life Advice from a Fat Lazy Slob. And my old podcast
I only read bullshit, I think.
Yeah, and my old podcast partner got me to read this book, and it got to that line, and it kind of like unlocked the key there. Like, oh, yes, that's it. There's people that, well, why would you do that? Why would you do that? Why not? Let's do it.
Why wouldn't
he asked me a podcast? I was like, let's go.
Dude, I love Kevin Smith, dude. I'm a huge Kevin Smith fan. I watched too much. I watched Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back too many times as a kid. Yeah. I watched Mallrats constantly, all like Mallrats, Dogma, Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. I mean, Chasing Amy less and Clerks less, but like I still had my appreciation for them, and I still watched them many times and can still quote them. And the Clerks cartoon.
Yes.
Oh man, I still quote the Clerks cartoon all the time.
That was ahead of its time. That was ahead of its time in many ways. That was really good. But I mean, and especially what he did for podcasting, because he's just been an ultimate nerd just in the news in and of itself. Then he goes out, Schmodcastle, and he's making it in Jersey, trying to, do that one other step for, the podcasters and nerds and all that, Jay and Silent Bob's Secret Stash and all the goddamn shit that he's been involved with.
Yeah, dude, I participated in the comic book men episode when they did the Jay and Silent Bob cosplayers, and they broke a Guinness World Record for Jay and Silent Bob cosplayers. Yeah. I did that with my best friend.
Awesome.
And I went to Evening with Kevin Smith years and years ago, when he did like he did a show at TCNJ
when he was in his serious phase before he found weed.
I mean, it might have been before he found weed, but he wasn't serious.
Okay, because he said in interviews he was like, "Oh, I was taking myself too seriously and stuff for a bit there."
He was still a goof. He was probably just talking about like, some of us just overthink. You know what I mean? He was probably just somebody who overthunk things.
Easy to do.
But I've always been a big fan, and it's my goal to work with him in some sort of way. I would like to act in something of his, or love to do podcasts with him or anything like that. The wake and bake thing that he has on his website now, the claymation thing with the smoke coming up. My buddy Joe, who I've been friends with for a long time, animated that for him, and now awesome. Like works for Kevin Smith, like making him little anime, like claymation Jay and Silent Bob stuff.
Oh, that's awesome.
And he's been on my podcast so many times because we just been friends for years. Like, he's just a South Philly kid that we're buddies. Like,
it's an easy thing to tie into, especially with somebody from like another city. Like, oh, Philly? We're gonna be friends. Come on over here.
Yeah, right. Exactly. It's like I have these figures that I go like, oh, that's a part of like a goal, and I don't want to go like, oh, that's not impossible, because I've had what people hear and they go, oh, that sounds impossible. How did you do that? And I'm like,
yeah,
I just tried with anything. People go, oh, that's impossible. How did you do it? I decided to do it, so then I did.
80% of anything is showing up.
Mm-hmm.
Just show up.
Right. I get probably the most people go, look, oh, how did you get Mark Norman on your podcast? That's most people said that's like the most popular episode I did. I'm like, oh, I just messaged him on Facebook.
I'd slit somebody's throat right now to have Mark Norman on my podcast.
Yeah, that was episode 85 of my podcast. So my podcast was brand new. I'm a 200.
I'm so jealous of you.
What am I? 323 episodes at this point. I mean, there's not a day where I would expect Mark Norman to respond to one of my texts ever again now, because he's a megastar.
Yeah,
but I mean, people do that.
I had the thought in my head. I was like, maybe I should text Mark Norman.
Right? No. You get to a certain level of fame. I think it happens, and I don't take it personally. But a lot of my friends, I've been in the wrestling business. Officially, I've been Cory Kastle now. September of 2024 will be 22 years that I've been Cory Kastle.
Nice.
Previous to that, I was already in the business for like 4 years, something like that. So 25 or so years I've been around the pro wrestling business.
Yeah.
A lot of my friends have gotten rich and famous and forgot to remember who they are, and don't respond to my text messages, and there's nothing in it for them. Yeah. Like, what can I do for them except for just provide you with this kind of friendship and this kind of conversation and this. I don't have the following that's going to help grow your following. I'm not a social media person. I'm not a famous comedian. I'm not a famous enough wrestler. You know what I mean? So I'm famous to like
easy
I'm
to
famous
put
to like 10 people. You know what I mean?
Well, it's easy to put yourself there because you don't know who you influence, and a lot with wrestling, you're not going to see who you're influencing because you're touching the young souls, and they are remembering this great event they had to where their parents took them there. They knew that they liked wrestling. You may be inspiring the whole next generation of all-star pro wrestlers. And you don't know.
I bring the drum with me to the ring, and I let all the kids beat the drum, like around the ring. I hope that's doing something for them. One day they'll be like, "Hey, Cory, let me beat his drum. Like
that's all you can do, especially in this industry. You do what you want.
Think about the vibrations of that bong, and then there's vibrations of it, and it means even more than just the sound that it made.
Yeah,
and it means something about like getting the attention that you needed for 1 second.
Yeah, you're connecting to the fans. It's not about you in that moment. It's about you connecting to your fans, as well as it adds a level to the experience and a level for that fan of, oh no, I was there. Cory let me bang the drum. It was an awesome night. You're giving that person, you're changing moods. You're changing, to change a person's mood is it's hard to do. But when somebody's good at it, they make it look effortless.
I got these like little rattle egg things now, and I've been I gave out a few in the crowd. This isn't one of them, but it's just like shaped like this little.
I was about to say that's not rattling at all.
No, it's like a little.
Yeah.
And I got a whole bunch of them, and I've been selling them at the merchandise table, and like giving them out random to people who like, if you buy one picture, I'll just give you one of these, or like if if you. So it's just now kind of like giving people involvement. And like it's like normally to go with my music, and my music is very heavy on this, not this drum particularly, but it's that sacred drum beat.
Yeah.
And this type of stuff, like I'm talking to you about a Tribe Called Red, or they're called Hallucination now, the hallucination. But like that sort of like that motion, that feeling, that spirit, that like we're doing something that's tribal, something that's spiritual, something that's sacred. That drum beat is sacred because it's going to be like the messages that I'm putting out in the ring, the stories that I'm telling in the ring, what I'm sacrificing right now. This is more sacred to me than most people's like idea of religion. You know what I mean? It's not that it's my religion to be a wrestler, but kind of wrestling has been my religion since I was a little kid, and it has made me into the person that I am, and it owes me nothing. I owe it everything for who I am. And I'm showing that with the way I beat my drum, not just the physical drum, but the drum beat in my heart.
Yeah.
And it all kind of plays together as showing up and being consistent.
That really plays along with what the last guest I had, Jabbar Brown, what he was saying was somebody was, asking him like, oh, well, you wouldn't want to be this person in Black history. You wouldn't be one of this person in Black history. And he said, no, you know who I want to be? Jack Kirby. Jack Kirby meant more to him than your Martin Luther Kings or anybody else, because that man affected his life. And now he's making amazing content. He's making music. He's making comics. And he's been doing it for a long time. That he's gotten to a level of success to where it's like what me and you were saying was like, oh my God, I did this. It's that kind of level to where when someone has passion about something and they lean in and trust themselves, it's one of the hardest things to do because it feels so narcissistic.
But, you know who's never existed in history before? You.
Yeah. 100%.
Everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody who's listening to this.
Yeah.
You know who's never existed in history before? You.
My favorite, I'm not sure if you're a Whovian, but my favorite Doctor Who quote was, it was a little girl saying to the doctor, I'm not important. I'm nobody. And he goes, really? That's amazing. Because in all my 900 years of traveling through time and space, I've never met anybody who is not important. That kind of level of, you're important to someone. You may not see it. You are important. You are at least a villain in somebody's story.
excuse me, can I just say, I I I had to pee before, but now that you've said urine important, I have to pause you for a sec.
Thing that I don't think a lot of people put a lot of I don't want to use the same word to describe it, but you know what I'm saying.
People don't put a lot of effort into effort. No, I think keep a strong focus on the efforts that people make on a daily basis. I think
it's easy to hop back into your own world every day, and the ego is, I think, a big problem in many people's lives.
We're in an instant itch to every a scratch to every instant itch culture.
Thing that's helped me. I saw this one thing on a meme today that I'm going to actively try to start doing, which is when you have a negative thought, try to flip it positive. Like whatever that negative thought is, especially because sometimes I can get really cynical and dark, and because it's funny, I'm like, I went for the joke. But now flip it, try to challenge.
You still have to be super careful about how you talk to yourself.
Yes.
Even if your intention is to be funny, if you're being self-deprecating to be funny and what you're doing is losing respect for yourself at the same time, got to stop doing that.
Yeah. Dude, I used to do it all the time. And that's another thing. If we're going to hit on all the hot topics this podcast, we got to talk about that, because even I'll mention it. My last podcast, my podcasts get deep, just like yours do. And you talk about things like this, because when I was talking to Jabbar, he said the number one thing that he just started to do, but he was so very happy with, was he started to love himself. And learning how to love yourself is really hard, because the person that is in front of you is it's a baby who's been affected by the last person to traumatize it. And that anger is coming out at you, not because of you. It's because you're the conduit for their anger. You're that service person. You're getting the heat. And that's where, like all metal, you wear and break. And having the ability to be able to love yourself, I think a lot of people need, because then society would get better, because you're not randomly outbursting that anger. And
I think that the X factor is the outside society. Is society saying, quit loving yourself? What do you think, you're better than me? What do you think, you're better than me? And when society says that, tell yourself, yeah, I do. Yeah, I do. Like if I think I suck as much as you think you suck, I would suck. So I got to tell myself I don't suck. A lot of times I think when it comes to like your self-talk, and especially self-deprecating talk, you're teaching other people how to talk to you.
Yes.
Right? If you don't have respect for yourself, and if you can't talk about yourself with conviction and respect, like you're an authority that matters in your own life, that people are going to go, oh, well, this guy clearly doesn't respect himself. I don't have to respect him.
Yeah.
And I don't have time to be disrespected by people based off of how they've seen me treat myself. If they see me treat myself like in decisions that I know have the vibrations, the vibrations that are gonna affect people's days.
Easy example to tie it in for the listeners. You mess up at work. Matt, you're such a fucking idiot. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah, you can't.
You can't do that.
You gotta have some grace with yourself. Everybody messes up. If there was a person who did nothing wrong and always did everything perfect, I'd show you somebody who's not very interesting. Yeah. Because you got to make mistakes to learn lessons.
They're very boring.
The stuff you've learned from the most is the stuff that you've had to recover from a screw up.
Behind every wise man was once a fool. And it's that insatiable, thirst for knowledge that makes the wise man. It's not necessarily the path he's walked, and that comes down to the passion. It comes down to a lot of different things that I think a lot of people don't think they have in themselves.
If I'm going to say every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end. If that beginning is today and right now, and that comes from like, I'm going to continue to make decisions that are going to be better for me. And if one of those decisions is to bring into my life things that can add value to my life. Mm-hmm. Let me be some of that. If it's just me trying to empower you in some way, encourage you in some way, because that I don't say like, follow me, I'm the best. I'm not saying that because I'm like, I'm the best and I'm really the best and I'm important. No, but I mean, like, I really want to bring value. I really want to help people. I really want to brighten somebody's day. I really want to change the way that some people treat themselves or treat the people around them. And I really want to help people understand grace and get out of their own ego's way.
Yeah.
Like, thanks ego for being here and getting me where I've been. Mm-hmm. But like, I don't need you all of it all the time.
Well, that's the thing, is that with the ego remembers longer than the person, really, because your own hangups that you put in your own way, your own ego, that is more long lasting than your memory. The human brain is meant to forget. You remember what you find important. And that's why I can rattle off facts about game companies and actors and, a whole bunch of different stuff, just like you. It's, you remember what is important. I wasn't interested in normal school. I was in, art classes and graphic design classes. I was 100% into it. Mm-hmm. But knowing your own strong points, what skill points did you put in what tree is important. But what a lot of people I find need to learn is, if you've learned one thing from Mattman, this podcast, is if you take any situation in your life and you can't look at that situation from the other person's perspective without getting mad, the problem is your own ego. I heard it on Rogan, and I've actively been trying to think of that when I talk to somebody else, especially because in most of my professional life, like I mentioned before, I was meeting a person at their worst moment. But for every person who was yelling and screaming at me, it made that person who was at their lowest and profusely thanked me and came back in with like confectionery treats like brownies. Bring brownies to your fucking local dealerships. They love that. They love food.
Oh man,
it makes their day.
Bring
hot chocolate and donuts to every Christmas tree lot attendant for like my whole life. We've done, that's part of Christmas. I was telling you off air, the Christmas traditions that we have with my family. It's some of it is that, like, anytime you go to the Christmas tree lot, you stop and you get hot chocolate and you give one to the lot attendant. Like, that's sometimes better than just a tip.
It makes their day.
Mm-hmm.
They go
because it's
like,
cold out there.
Oh, you know what happened at work? Oh, that's awesome. It's those little life moments, because that incepts the idea, like Christopher Bristow. See, he just incepted ideas into all your heads, and you don't even know it. You'll meet him, he'll tell you, I gave you that idea. It was on the Cory Kastle Evolving podcast, because I told Mattman and Mattman told you. So now it's like the transitive property. Everybody's now affected by Christopher Bristow. He's like a plague.
I was told from I have this. I could say he's a guide. One of my spiritual teachers. One of my one of the, I'd say a wise man that I go to. He's an elder,
yogi, mentor,
right?
Jedi
My
master.
Yeah, sure. My mentor. He once said to me, and the second he said it, I never stopped thinking about it, and I'll quote it all the time. He said, "The roots of the tree, the ones that are deep down in the dark, dark ground, they're just as much a part of the tree as the whole tree that you see." So he told this to me while I was in the dark, while I was going through it. And I never stopped thinking about that. It's not, I can't get mad at that deep, dark stuff.
Yeah.
I can't lash out at the deep, dark stuff because that's just as much a part of me. It's just, I just have to have a relationship with that. I have to kind of navigate that because those two parts, the yin and the yang, they make up the whole me.
Very real. My brother and me, we're yin and yang. I'm very extroverted. I'm like the most extroverted introvert you'll ever meet. I try to be the most, the optimist. He is very much the skeptic. He's the, he's the pessimist. And it's that natural yin and yang to where when you see it, you have to understand that you also have that natural balance in your normal day to day. If you work too much, you're always in the gym. Another aspect of your life is going to be thrown out of sorts. So I've tried recently, and then past like 5-6 years, like Perjangers, Wallhangers, which you could see on pjandwh.com. I've tried to actively try to have, especially with podcasting, have a podcasting night. One thing that I always do is I have a family night. Me and my brother will watch stuff. I'll have my work, I'll have my play, I'll have my side companies and stuff. But it's having that whole pie. It's like a well-balanced diet. You have to have all those aspects because I think what a lot of people realized in the pandemic was that you need that human interaction in your life.
Yeah,
it makes weirdos not to talk to people.
Yeah, I think for sure the pandemic was definitely better for my podcast. I mean, I had more guests and 100%. I had more like being able to do virtual stuff like this and opening up.
The views were through the roof. Oh my God.
The views stayed the same for me.
Holy shit.
The views stayed the same.
Oh man, I got some really good views during the pandemic. One of the ones, because I got into the interviewing through Triforce podcast that I did with Chris, and one of the bigger ones that we got during the pandemic was Lisa Wilcox from Nightmare on Elm Street 4 and 5. And and then it's that kind of evolution, since we're having a theme.
Not my thing. Evolving, you're talking about now.
Yeah, but it's my thing. I try to evolve like a Pokemon when I can. It's one of those things that you don't see what is happening in front of you, but you have a gut feeling. I've had a gut feeling about Perjangers and Wallhangers since Christopher Bristow. He did a podcast at his daughter's career day. And all these kids were talking about anime and games and all this stuff. And I was at a low point. And that's when I got back into podcasting, is because I heard these kids talking about all this stuff that I was interested in. And this podcast was just as interesting as any other content. And once we did Matt Man, Old Man Car Ride, episode 9, and I just put out episode 414, working on 416 in the hoppers. And it's that kind of, I've had this feeling, and now to get traction with the company finally it's fulfilling in a way that, like, I didn't think I would actually get this gratification of minor success, like minuscule. and having like guys like Mark McKenna, Josh Shockley, and Jetta Anthony, all these guys, amazing guys, Jim Cantelli, Johnny Necro, just like you. We can't help but spout off all these amazing people we meet because there's something that we relate to with the people we talk to that it's inspiring to us because they kept going on. All I'm doing is sitting behind a microphone and just having an opinion. Like, I can keep going. Like you're saying, I'm going to do this for the rest of my life. We're going to have a fucking a retirement episode podcast. Like, shit, man. It's going to be evolved with Cory, Kastle, and Matt Man. Just sitting in the retirement home. Like, man, that was a good life, wasn't it?
This is going to go. There's going to be a walker and then a wheel.
We already have the design. Just keep doing it. That's it. You know, you just keep going. Evolved. Oh no, I evolved. And that is the beauty of that idea, because then you're just remembering all the crap you did.
Right.
And it's a whole new generation. Like, oh no, this is the best show. It's a whole bunch of all-timers reliving, rewatching your show.
When I went back and listened to that Jimmy Rave episode to send it to his daughter, I was embarrassed. I was like, oh, I was talking about my butt, and I was talking about wiping butts and different stuff, and I was like, oh, I don't know. I mean, I didn't sound as mature. I didn't sound as I was sounded like a kid. Yeah. I guess I was a kid at the time, but compared to what I am now. So
it's full circle, really.
Stay tuned.
One thing that I always do like to say, and I'll traditionally say it on social media after I've had like a great podcast, or I have a great idea in the hopper that's about to come to fruition. Just wait and see what I do next. Like, if you love this, it's only up from here. I'm only going to get more crazy, and more people are going to see the crazy and be like, you know what? I like this crazy asshole. And be like, yeah, me too.
I had this like catchphrase that I was using for a while, and it came from I was at a gas station with my grandmother. So I can't even tell you how long ago this was. She's been gone since 2006, probably. So I was at a gas station with my grandmother, and this old man came in, and he had all these bags. And he was walking up to the lottery desk part, and I guess my grandmother was in his way, and he went, "Yo, watch!" And I just then started saying, "Yo, watch" all the time. Yo, watch.
And you know what? Interestingly enough, I got this. I decided to stay on this devilish goatee of mine because of my grandmother. When I first tried to start growing facial hair, because I had this thin mustache, and I'm like, I'm gonna shave that off. I first tried to grow it, and I went up to her grandmother, and I'm like, "Hey, Grandma, what do you think?" She goes, "You look like the devil." Thanks, Grandma. That's great. So
charming.
Yeah, I kept it for a little bit after that, and then my boss at the time, Jeff D'Ambrosio, comes to me, goes, "Maddie, what are you doing? What are you doing?" So I was like, all right, I can't rock facial hair. I tried. That's it. I'm done. And then started PJ. You'd go on the Perjangers and Wallhangers Facebook. There's a cover photo. The cover art is one that Kelly Collins, our partner, did, and he did it as like in a comic book art, and it has my goatee, because after my grandmother died, I figured it's safe to go back to the goatee now, and I've kept it the entire time. So when we moved into when my brother bought this house and we moved in, a little while later, I'm walking to the house because it's street parking. I'm walking to the house, and all these neighborhood kids gather around me. I'm like, shit, they're gonna jump me. But this little girl comes up and she goes, "Excuse me, are you the devil?" Now, mind you, I wear a fedora. So you see a guy in a goatee wearing a fedora. I mean, it kind of checks out. You know, she wasn't being insensitive. She kind of had it on the mark. I mean, I feel like if I met a trainer and I didn't skip leg day, I could probably be cast as Mephisto in something.
Do you know that what I thought about it? What that girl asking you that? What I thought about that question?
Oh, please.
That's fedorable.
Dude, my podcast, one of my Triforce podcast partners, Katerina, one of the podcasts, I was wearing that and I said something and she called me fedorable. And then she called me her fedorable fox. And I was like, oh my God. Talk about awesome names, all right?
That's an Xbox Live name.
You know what I mean?
A gamer tag, yeah.
I didn't take it. So if you guys want that, run with it. I'm giving you that gift of the fedorable fox. Okay.
You're welcome.
Because I'm keeping the devil at Delco.
Devilco.
Oh man, I got a whole marketing scheme now.
whole food market? The whole food market scheme?
I don't know if anybody would really trust a food company.
A devil food?
Devil food? From the devil of Delco himself. Like, I'm not touching that. It's probably going to have a recall. I'm thrifty. You wouldn't want to buy my product. Not my food recall. Oh man, what is the longest podcast you've done?
That one with Jimmy Rave, 4 hours. That was the longest one I've ever done. I've never done one that long, and I don't want to ever do one that long.
Oh my God, dude! I did a Christmas cast. I did it part 1 and part 2 because part 1 was with Brandon Spicer, part 2 was with Wild Oni creator Michael Florio and my podcast partner Chris Bristow. Dude, I was like a little over 4 hours. I was fucking loopy by the end. I mean, I stopped to pee. Like at 4 hours, I got to the end of it and I was just like, I wouldn't watch this episode either.
Right. I definitely only want to put out things that I'd want to consume if I was somebody who could consume those things.
Exactly.
Like, part of me saying the part about like I've always wanted to live the type of life where if I wasn't me, I'd wish I was. That's why I'm putting out wrestling matches that would be wrestling matches I'd want to watch if I were a fan.
Yeah.
If I'm putting out podcasts, I want to put out podcasts that I listen to as a podcast listener. I consume podcasts all the time. That's all I do. Why would I would want to have something that's interesting enough that I'd want to hear it. So why not make it interesting enough for the people who are gonna hear it?
And why not inspire them along the way? Seems to be our motto, or our kind of thing. Not a motto. I mean,
I just got a couple other things here, and then I'll send you off into the sunset with a hot dog and a handshake, and we'll rappy.
Oh, I love hot dogs.
So, I like to say, on the record stuff, like I was telling you about how important on the record stuff is for me. I want to just say on the record how important it is to me that you've spent the currency of your effort and your attention here with me today. And I'm very excited about what our next ventures are going to be. Whatever we create together, I'm here for it. I'm excited about this friendship, and I'm excited that 100%. We have these common things. And
yeah, man, this has been fun. This has been great, dude. This has been honestly the best podcast I've done recently.
Want everyone to say that. I want everybody who's on my podcast to say, this is my favorite podcast I've ever been on, or anytime I'm ever a guest on somebody else's podcast.
And it's so weird because
to say,
I've heard that about my podcast, and now I'm saying it's somebody else, but it's like, I almost felt like, nah, they didn't mean that. They're just being nice, but I really mean it. It's been great. I love podcasting because I love the long format conversation. You can really get the feel for a person, whether you're in the podcast recording session or not. You get a lot more of a feel for who that person is in the long format. And I feel it's showing who both of us are, not just, like you were saying, this isn't just one show or the other. This is an amalgamation between the two. This is like a legendary matchup, wrestling wise, that's going to happen again. Cory Kastle v. Mattman podcast 2 will be coming out again. We'll hype it up like a McGregor fight.
I say all that on the record stuff to then say, if you have anything you'd like to ask me that's maybe that's been on your mind that you haven't got a chance to say, or if there's anything that just first impressions from the 2.5 hours that we've known each other.
I gotta tell you, man. I mean,
here's your platform. Yeah,
I didn't know what to think. And I try not to know what to actually think before I talk to somebody because of my time in the service industry. And I'm honestly, I don't want to say pleasantly surprised, but I'm glad that somebody is as passionate about this craft that I am. Like I have been, yes, I've been doing it for a while unsuccessfully, but along the way, it's,
Can I just ask you to do a self-edit? When you talk about what you've done, please don't throw unsuccessful onto that. I want in your head to redefine how all of that's made you who you are, regardless of what levels of success. So please redefine what success is in your own mind. If I could challenge you in any way, when you're talking about yourself, anything that you've tried that hasn't worked and hasn't given you the instant results that you expected, you threw those expectations. Those expectations were unsuccessful. Not to say the venture that you did was unsuccessful.
Well, yeah, it was
redefining your levels of.
It was my expectations because success. I get excited for the moment that I'm in, especially with podcasting, because the other person knows this is magic. It's like the same kind of feel you get at a comedy show, and you're in there with the comic. You're in his world, and you're trying to figure it out and understand. And if somebody is articulate enough, you can enjoy this crazy person's world because oh, it's Cory. I love this. Let's hop in. Let's see where he's going next. It's that kind of thing that I found nice because you try to relate with people that you meet, and for such similar passions and similar motivations and everything through this, I really feel like it's like, you're on Earth 2 and I'm Earth, 47. We're just two sides of the same coin. It kind of felt like you get a feel for podcasting a little bit, and you can tell when it's going good. And it was one of those things. It was really nice to come on and podcast with you and not having any experience. So many people that I talk to, I have Frank there, I got Aleem, I got Chris, I got somebody that I can backboard off of. And it's almost like a safety net that I've developed, and striving away from that.
You're co-hosting.
But being able to actually step out on my own 2 feet with my network. I've never felt confident in my life. You know, I've always leaned on the strength of my friends because I didn't realize it at the time, but greatness surrounds itself with greatness. But at a certain point, you got to step up and be great too, you know, and the amount of effort that you put out, it's nice being able to connect with somebody who puts out that equal amount of effort. So that's what I would say. It's nice meeting an equal, just a person who's so fucking nerdy in podcasting that I am, and who's willing to just let the conversation play out and let this wacko with a devil goatee talk.
I think that the it would be super easy. Here's what's easy. Prejudging and having those prejudgments meet exactly what who the person is that you're talking to, having these expectations and having this person meet them exactly. I could imagine just from seeing me, just from reading anything about me, or I don't post things. It's not all I post is podcasts. I don't really go on social media and make too many things. It's just because I feel like it's too distractible. I think I'm too. I get told all the time I look like somebody who would go viral with social media posts, and I'm like,
you look like you got a flat earth theory. If I'm going for the joke, you look like you're about to tell me
if it's easy to go off
the edge of the earth.
Yeah, no, I don't have one of those.
I know, that's what's so great. Right. I'm like, normal guy, awesome.
When it comes to what the expectations are on just the surface of looking at me, I look like somebody who you would probably not like.
You'd probably ask me for $20.
Right. It's a lot of people would be like, oh, just to look at me, they'd already have their mind made up about what I'm like. So like I have a thing I've been trying, but I'm not sure I'm going to continue doing it. But I would say, like when you're listening to me, you're like, what is this adjacent Momoa awkward man?
Adjacent Momoa awkward man. Make that the title, sir. God damn, that's good.
What would this guy have to say that's be interesting enough for me to invest any of my attention? You know what I mean? It's like, if that's your if your instant thought is this guy's probably this guy's probably that, and in your mind you create me being that thing, I might not be right for you. And I'm okay accepting that I'm not for everybody, because not everybody needs to be for everybody.
Yeah, no, that's true. There's 52 flavors of Baskin Robbins. Oftentimes,
I think there's 31. I think there's 31 flavors of Baskin Robbins.
Math, it's not my strong suit, but you know.
Did you ever see Dirty Work?
It's been too long. The Comedy Central run I've watched, which is not probably speaking.
Which one?
Like when they played it on Comedy Central. Comedy Central was infamous for like completely censoring movies and just cutting out.
In Dirty Work, there's Don Rickles plays their boss, and he's and he goes up to Artie Lang and he goes, Baskin Robbins called. They said they're only down to 2 flavors. And then he like puts his ear on Artie Lang's belly and he goes, "Are you in there? Are you in there, ice cream?"
Oh man. Don Rickles was like, they broke the mold, unfortunately, with him.
Yeah. He
roaster. He was a gem. The only guy who could insult the mob and not get knocked off. It's his thing. Dude, you're talking about success. That's my level of success. I want to be able to fucking insult Hamas and not be executed tomorrow. You know what I mean?
Hamas.
Like Don Rickles is probably the last person that could go right up to any dictator and make fun of him and be like, I love this guy.
Yeah, was he the one? Was that him? He was shooting on Frank Sinatra. I'm trying to think.
I think it was the Sinatra thing. He was, and it was somebody big, and they were getting mad, and that was like, no, it's his thing. It's actually an honor to be grilled by him.
Right. Like that's and there's a whole culture around Frank Sinatra, like so that it's funny and strange, but like to have that type of pull based solely around your art form is something that is #goals.
Oh man, 100%, 100%. You know, like, I mean, having that #1 podcast would be nice. Like, Kill Tony or Rogan, that'd be great.
I don't know. I don't know how much I've said it. I definitely don't know how much I've said it on here, but when I had Mark Norman on my podcast, who it's funny that he's on Rogan all the time now.
Oh yeah, when
I had him on my podcast, like he had done that deep diving into who I was after he had agreed to do my podcast, and saw that I was a wrestler, and saw that I was a comedian, and saw that I was in this, and I was also doing a Wrestle Talk podcast, so I was like almost like a commentator of that of fight, and he told me when he started asking me questions about the podcast after we stopped recording, he started asking me certain questions, and I was telling him about other guests that I've had on and how they were important in this type of stuff, and he said, "You're the next Joe Rogan." And now that being a guy who actually knows Joe Rogan now,
that's a huge compliment, man.
It's an interesting and fun thing to think about. And, and I certainly see that as being something that could absolutely be a reality. And I'm not.
I agree with you, because I'm like, oh, I bet one Mark McKenna. You're like, I raise you one Mark Norman. I'm like, God damn, this guy got me beat. Not that it was a competition, but like you say, Mark Norman, I'm a huge stand-up comedy fan, almost overly. I'm a bigger stand-up comedy fan than I am a comic book and video game nerd, but nobody's looking to watch a stand-up comedy podcast.
Dude, it was so funny, man. When I was I ran into him a couple months later. I was at Skankfest in New York City.
Okay.
And he was there, and I had just wrestled a show somewhere, and I had like my wrestling backpack on with my gear in it, and I was just cutting through somewhere to like get to the next thing, to like go put my bag down, and he was like, "Yo!" and he did like this, and he was like talking to chicks, and he was like, and then like he was like, this guy's a wrestler, and he was like putting me over, and he was like, did you move to New York yet? And he was like trying to get enthused about asking me my questions about who, where I am in my journey, and I was like, this is freaking cool. I mean,
his style of comedy is right along your line though, because he has that, oh man, that perfect delivery.
Yeah,
especially with a joke that is so like just corny or just not something. But when he says it,
when he does some stuff, I'm like, oh, I wish I wrote that.
Hey, comedy. You know what I mean? Mark Norman is a national treasure.
It's so me. And as we were recording the show, maybe 5 minutes in, and I made a joke, and he went, "Oh, nice!" Like I felt valid in that moment. I mean, he wasn't the superstar comedian Mark Norman that he is now.
Yeah, but you didn't tell me you had a stand-up comedy Purple Heart by making fucking Mark that little nice. That is a fucking that's a medal right there. in podcasting, especially with how big he is now. Like,
Howdy.
you know, like Mark Norman. I can't tell you. So, especially when I deliver some corny jokes, I'm delivering like Mark Norman. You know what I mean? You can't help it. He created a whole style for like corny jokes that is so awesome.
Yeah.
He's like he is a gem. You know, there's those comedic people that we meet that are amazing like that.
I mean, I'm sure our paths will cross again at some point. I'm not, I'm not forcing it or really worrying too hard about it. But like, we've run into each other a couple other times, and I don't see it not happening again.
Yeah. Sometimes, like I said, that's scheduling, especially with people in their lives. And hey, I got this person on. Oh, I can't do that. I got, that's success though, ultimately getting the person on and saying that, man, this was fun. I want to do this again. If they're genuine about it, it makes it all worth it.
I'm a blacksmith, man. I got so many irons in the fire all the time.
Yep.
I got so many irons in the fire. I always say, man, a lumberjack doesn't chop down a tree with one swing of the axe.
Yeah.
Got to keep 100%. On going.
Just keep on.
All right. With that being said, I do a segment that I call audio time travel. Okay. So we did talk about this stuff outliving us, or this stuff going beyond and now being a part of history. This history right now, undeniable. This is our first conversation,
the origin,
like long form conversation that we've had. I think, when it comes to people wanting to kind of research it later on, or if people want to like stumble across this in some way 20 years from now, the people who love you the most, your family, your friends, like you, maybe if you stumble across this 20 years from now, say 2044, you stumble across this episode, what are some messages, some timestamps from right here and right now, messages that you want to give to those people who are seeking this out specifically to hear what you've got to say? You're speaking to them right now in these minutes. What are you saying next?
It's a good one. It's a good one. You've hit me with these really, really good questions here tonight. So loved ones in 2044. Well, ultimately, I'd want them to know how much they mean to me. In my day-to-day life, especially my friends, I don't connect every day, especially like some of my best friends that I'm still friends with, and some that I want to be friends with again. I don't always communicate as much as I speak, as much as I talk. I don't always say a lot, and it comes from being a host, and you can't have dead air. But if I truly think about it, the thing that has made me most original and most unique are the people around me and my observation of you, because you've helped me become a more empathetic person, more caring person, more thoughtful person, and not being that person. Like my family, we weren't the people to where every time you left the house, we said, I love you. It was implied. You said it once, it was there. Like, why do I have to keep telling you? So I'm along that kind of mindset. Like, when I tell you you're my friend, I love you, you're my brother. You're my brother. I can hate you now. I'm allowed to hate you. And hey, what's up, bro? You know, I can come back. You understand me. And that understanding and not judging me, not calling me weird, not just putting me in a box and putting me off to the side, that meant the most to me. That led me to what I'm going to do next. And your support means everything, because not a lot of people are like me. They don't actually express themselves, what they truly think, and that's something that I'm starting to lean into now, that I hope I do in the future. And I hope these people are like, dude, we get it. Shut up. We know you love me. Calm down. But it's something that expressing that and, leaning more into love is something that everybody should do, because it's easy to hate. It's harder to love, because love, with that, you have to understand, and understanding is something that not a lot of people have time for. You just take the quick out. So I hope all of my friends and family turn more to love and understanding why something happens, and why is this person so funny but sucks at school. Give that person guidance. Say, hey, maybe you need to go a more creative route, and push them towards it. I hope that my friends and family have seen me and my success and pushed their kids in the right direction, because 80s baby, born, raised in the 90s, we didn't have all this, understanding that we do now on what happens. So in the future, we're going to have even more understanding. So I hope my friends and family take these little bits of knowledge that I pick up along the way, and don't just say he's just a crazy guy just spouting off whatever he sees on the internet.
Hey man, can you spell the first 4 letters of my podcast?
It's been
just look at the screen. It's like the name of the
podcast. EVOL.
Now spell that backwards.
Love. I see what you did there. Oh, that's clever. That's clever. That's great.
Dude, I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful that you shared that. I'm so grateful that you came here. I'm so grateful for the currency that you've paid me, of your effort and your time.
Me too,
this
man.
evening. Usually this is the way we wrap them up. I usually say, hypothetically, I've gifted you this show. This is your first episode of your new podcast, Evolving with Madman. In a very Jerry Springer's Final Thought type of way, how do you send the folks home happy and inspired to be a better version of themselves, in a nice, pretty little Jerry Springer bow?
When you're in your darkest moment, the worst part of your day, think back to the last person to genuinely thank you. And then work off of that. Don't focus on the hate, and spread more love. Until next time.
Forgive yourself. Forgive other people. Be kind. Be kind just as much as to yourself as you are to everybody else. Do you do any impressions at all, Matt?
Mainly people that I want to make fun of. But I do dabble in the impressions.
What's your best impression?
Oh man. I already did my stoner voice earlier. That one, nominated for a national radio award.
Ooh.
But
in your stoner voice,
okay.
Can you say the way we close out the show? We say, be fun, have safe, keep evolving.
Be fun, have safe, and keep evolving.
Definitely sounds like a Big Mouth character. Says definitely sounds a little Nick Crowley.
Yeah. The best part would I would be doing the podcast, the radio show with Raz, and occasionally when he went to break, he would go a little bit more Charlie, a little bit less Matt. Like he had those little notes like, you got to get higher up there. You can't be down here. You can't be that new. You got to be high.
Sounds like Casey Kasem when you're doing it low like that.
Man,
Casey.
You got to have a little bit of range.
What was that? I just watched an episode. I just watched Big Mouth, like a whole bunch of episodes with my girl the other night. And he said, damn it, why can't I remember the line that the like the broken demon, the Rick is like, oh, that's right, Poodle. That guy.
Oh my God. That fucking dude,
guy.
I didn't want to like Big Mouth. Okay. I did not want to like Big Mouth, but I did. I didn't want to like the league, and I did. Like sometimes I stumble onto shows. I'm like, oh, this is gonna be stupid. And I'm laughing my ass off, enjoying it. Sometimes I
never got into the league because I don't like sports.
There was a point in my life to where I did like sports, and then I remember being like so like shaky, angry that the Eagles lost.
How are you letting this happen to yourself?
Exactly. I was like, why am I letting that affect my life?
Mm-hmm.
I could be getting wrong. I could be getting mad at me playing a video game wrong. That's at least my fault. I had nothing to do with that. Why am I letting that affect my day? No, I still feel that way. When
goes back to me saying to be kinder to yourself.
Yeah.
Be kinder to yourself. Rewind yourself.
It's the ultimate lesson of this podcast.
I need to rewind myself.
Take a lesson from the 90s. Be kind. Rewind.
I was doing some Kid Rock. Remember that? Only God Knows Why.
Oh man, he had a really good career.
They say that every man bleeds just like me.
That was the song that led him down that like country rock road.
Yeah.
To where he started off with like rap rock, and he's like, hey, country rock sounds good.
Like Kanye wasn't big yet on auto tune.
Oh man, yeah.
But when it was like, feel like number one, yet I'm last in line.
But Graduation, I will listen to that album anytime. Anytime. His jaw was wired shut through most of it. Go ahead.
I'm about to do the wrap up, but I'm going to say this one last thing, and then I'll wrap. So, my mom does not like Kanye. And it cracks me up that my mom doesn't like Kanye. So much so that every time I go to my mom's house, I go, "Hey Alexa, play Power by Kanye West." I do that every time I walk into my mom's house, and she goes, "Stop, Alexa, stop, turn it off." So everybody, if you hear this,
walk into your mom's house and
play Alexa, play Power by Kanye West, and see how your mom reacts. It'll bring some joy into your life, just like you should always be doing. Be fun, have safe, keep evolving.